Chapter 110. Ta-da! The footsteps were getting closer and closer. Qin Feiyang and the other man held their breath, ready to attack. After a few breaths, the two guards stopped at the feet of Qin Feiyang and the other man and kicked them hard. Seeing no reaction, they leaned over and turned them over. Hey! Immediately, Qin Feiyang grinned. At the same time, Ling Yunfei held a jade bottle in his hand and threw it hard. A transparent liquid flew out from the mouth of the bottle and splashed on the faces of the two guards. Sure enough, they didn't die. The taller guard's eyes were full of killing intent. He raised the iron hook in his hand and smashed it at the two. Obviously, he had been mentally prepared, but the shorter guard was so scared that he sat on the ground, because he believed that Qin Feiyang and the other man were dead. When he saw that they were not dead, he was very panicked subconsciously. The iron hook whistled. Qin Feiyang and the other man's faces changed. They hurriedly supported themselves with both hands and stepped back. At the same time, they spread their legs. Clang! Crack! The iron hook smashed between their legs. Accompanied by a loud noise, the ground cracked on the spot. The two were scared out of their wits. Cold sweat broke out all over their bodies, because the iron hook was only a few inches away from their family jewels. If their family jewels were hit just now, wouldn't they be ruined on the spot? What are you waiting for? After the taller guard missed, he roared at the shorter guard and raised the iron hook to swing at the two. The shorter guard quivered and immediately got up. He directly raised the big iron bow and smashed it at the two's heads. But the next moment, the two suddenly lay on the ground and roared. The iron bow and two iron hooks also fell to the ground, making a harsh metal sound. Their faces were rapidly festering at this moment. In an instant, their faces were unrecognizable. That's right. It was the single-horn python's venom that was eroding their skin. It was difficult to open their eyes. It was a heart-wrenching pain. The taller guard shouted, "What was that liquid you just splashed?" Qin Feiyang and Qin Feiyang looked at each other. Then they quickly got up, raised the daggers in their hands, and plunged them into their backs. "While you're sick, I'll take your life." "Ah!" The two of them screamed and fell to the ground with a thud, losing their lives on the spot. Ling Yunfei pulled out his dagger, kicked the two of them and sneered. "Wasting an entire bottle of poison, you guys can be considered to have died honorably." The sound came from over there. "Let's go and take a look." Two shouts came from a small alley not far away. Qin Feiyang and Xiao Luo raised their heads to take a look. Then, they turned around and ran towards the exit of the alley without looking back. There they are. Chase after him. A large group of guards arrived at the crossroads. When they saw Qin Feiyang and Li Wuyo, they immediately chased after them with murderous intent. Ling Yunfei looked back and immediately roared in exasperation. "Your master is already an arrow at the end of its flight. Why are you still so desperate? Are you stupid?" However, those guards turned a deaf ear. Qin Feiyang said, "Don't talk nonsense with them. They have been brainwashed by the city lord and won't listen." Seeing that the exit was close at hand, suddenly, two figures stood in front of the exit. Caught off guard, Qin Feiyang and Xiao Luo were startled. They suddenly jumped up and jumped onto the roof again. The two of them were a little confused. One of them asked, "What are you doing on the roof?" This voice. Qin Feiyang was stunned. He stopped and looked down carefully. A wry smile crept up on his face. It turned out that they were not from the city lord's mansion. They were Gu Ba and He Wu. Running when we see people, it seems that we are a little too sensitive. Ling Yunfei also had a wry smile on his face. The two of them jumped down and landed in front of Gu Ba and He Wu. "Are you okay?" Gu Ba looked at them up and down, his face full of concern. "I won't die." Qin Feiyang shook his head and asked, "Is it just the two of you? Where are Elder Feng and the others?" "Elder Feng and the others have all gone to the city lord's mansion." "No, what do you mean it's just the two of us? Could it be that with the strength of He Wu and I, we can't deal with those small fries?" Gu Ba said unhappily. He Wu's face twitched as he said, "We are after all two-star martial grandmasters. Is it really okay to look down on us?" "Ha!" Qin Feiyang laughed dryly and said, "I don't mean that. Then, I will leave the rest to the two of you. Just wait and see." Guba, get to work. Yiwu shouted coldly. The two of them were like hungry wolves pouncing on their prey, pouncing on the group of guards. Wherever they passed, the guards fell one by one, and screams could be heard endlessly. There was no suspense at all. This was a one-sided massacre. Qin Feiyang and Yiwu could finally rest for a while. They strode forward and killed some of the fish that escaped the net. After a while, the four of them came to the main street. The alley behind them was already filled with blood. They looked at the sky above the city lord's mansion. Boom. At that place, a loud sound broke through the clouds as battle chi pierced through the sky. Waves of intense battle waves enveloped more than half of Black Bear City. Ling Yunfei's eyes lit up as he said with rapid breathing, "It's rare to see a battle between battle monarchs. Let's go take a look." Guba nodded and said, "Yes, if we can observe it from a close distance, it will definitely be helpful for our future cultivation." The four of them ran toward the city lord's mansion as fast as lightning. Before they reached the city lord's mansion, a sea of people appeared in front of them, blocking their way. Yiwu frowned. "There are so many people, how do we get in?" Ling Yunfei said, "Isn't that simple? Just step on their shoulders." After saying that, he leaped up and stepped on their shoulders, quickly rushing toward the entrance of the city lord's mansion. Qin Feiyang, Yiwu, and Guba looked at each other and felt the same. It's Jiang Haotian and the others. What happened inside? Can you tell us? After seeing the four of them, everyone hurriedly asked. However, the four of them ignored them as if they were walking on flat ground. After dozens of breaths, they steadily landed in front of the city lord's mansion's entrance. At the entrance, there were a few middle-aged men. There were deacon elders from the martial arts hall and deacon elders from the pill hall. They were here mainly to prevent anyone from running in. Haotian, Yunfei. Are you okay? Seeing Qin Feiyang and Yiwu, they immediately surrounded them and asked with concern. Thank you for your concern, seniors. We are fine. Qin Feiyang cupped his hands and smiled. Ling Yunfei asked, Seniors, what's the situation inside? We don't know either. The few of them shook their heads. Ling Yunfei asked, Can we go in and take a look? No. The few of them replied in unison. What a joke. There were more than a dozen battle monarchs fighting inside. If they let these two in, what if something happened? Ling Yunfei was extremely disappointed as he stared at the entrance. Qin Feiyang didn't think much of it. When he was in the imperial capital, he often saw battles between battle monarchs, let alone battles between battle monarchs. Rumble. Crack. The loud noise lasted for hundreds of breaths before it gradually stopped. The battle should be over. You can go in now. The deacon elders said with a smile. What's the use of going in now? Ling Yunfei grumbled in his heart. After a while, a group of people walked out in a single file. They all had different degrees of injuries on their bodies. They were Luo Xiong, Feng Cheng, and Elder Mo, the Precious Treasure Pavilion Master, the Martial Arts Hall Master. Lin Liang was also there. There were also two old men with healthy faces. Qin Feiyang had never seen them before. They are the elders of the Martial Arts Hall. They are all battle monarchs. Ling Yunfei explained to Qin Feiyang in a low voice. Feng Cheng walked in front of Qin Feiyang and gave him a knock on the head. He said angrily, You didn't even discuss such a big matter with us. Have you grown wings? Qin Feiyang rubbed his head and said unhappily, Don't you have any sympathy? Can't you see that they are injured? Feng Cheng raised his eyebrows and said, Yo, you still have reason? Do you believe that this old man will beat you up right now and make you unable to get out of bed for 3 months? Don't. Qin Feiyang hurriedly waved his hands and laughed. This disciple will definitely pay attention next time. At the same time, the martial arts hall master and the two old men also scolded Ling Yunfei fiercely. The two of them felt wronged, but their hearts were warm, because these people were actually concerned about them. At this moment, Lin Liang suddenly said, Jiang Haotian, I apologize to you on behalf of Lin Chen. I hope you can change your mind and go to the Danwang Hall. Apologize? Qin Feiyang was stunned. He cupped his hands and said, Senior, you are too polite. This junior has already forgotten about that matter. Hearing this, Lin Liang's eyes suddenly showed a trace of a smile. The good show is yet to come. Just wait and see. Qin Feiyang secretly sneered. He looked at Luo Xiong and asked, Hall Master, where are the city lord and the others? Luo Xiong said, The others are all dead. Only the city lord escaped. What? Escaped? Qin Feiyang's expression changed. Ling Yunfei's face was also full of anxiety. With so many battle kings, they actually let the city lord escape. He really didn't know what they were doing. There is a secret passage under the city lord mansion. It is very complicated. Old Feng and I have been looking for him for a long time, but we still couldn't find him. Luo Xiong was a little helpless, but he smiled and said, But don't worry, we have already destroyed his cultivation. He is now weaker than an ordinary person. Even if he survives, he won't be able to do anything. That's good. Ling Yunfei let out a sigh of relief. Qin Feiyang raised his eyebrows and asked, Where is the entrance to the secret passage? It is in the conference hall. What do you want to do? Let me tell you, the secret passage below is like a maze. You must not take the risk. Luo Xiong said. Qin Feiyang smiled and said, I won't. Don't worry. He then looked at Ling Yunfei and said, Your mother must be waiting anxiously. Let's go back to the Spring Breeze Inn. That's right. Ling Yunfei patted his head, looked at the martial arts hall master and the two old men and said, Hall master elder, we will leave first. I will have to trouble you here. Don't cause trouble. The martial arts hall master warned. Understood. Ling Yunfei nodded. When the two turned around, the crowd gathered in front of them also tactfully retreated to the side, making a small path. Then, the two left without looking back. But when they were out of sight, Qin Feiyang suddenly stopped and said to Ling Yunfei, You go back first. I will go to the city lord mansion again. What are you going to do? Ling Yunfei frowned. Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed with a cold light, and said, If you cut the grass without removing the roots, it will grow again. The city lord must die. Ling Yunfei said, Then I will go with you. If there is an accident, we can take care of each other. Qin Feiyang pondered for a while and said, Okay, let's go. Chapter 111. Soon, the two of them came to a wall. Seeing that there was no one around, they directly jumped over it. The strong smell of blood assailed their nostrils. The aftermath of the battle filled the void. The originally magnificent city lord's mansion was now full of holes and devastation. On the ground, there were corpses everywhere. Qin Feiyang and Li Yundong moved forward silently, feeling as if they were walking in the Azura hell. The council hall had also collapsed and turned into a ruin. Entering the ruins, they searched for a long time before they found the entrance to the secret passage. Because the entrance was blocked by Luo Xiong and the others. They probably wanted to block the city lord inside. After a lot of effort, the two of them opened the entrance and jumped in. Sure enough, as Luo Xiong said, the secret passage was complicated and difficult to distinguish the direction. On the wall, there was only one candle flame a long distance away, making it appear incomparably dim. What should we do? Ling Yunfei glanced around, somewhat at a loss. He can escape the pursuit of others, but he can't escape the pursuit of the white-eyed wolf. Qin Feiyang smiled confidently. White-eyed wolf. Ling Yunfei was stunned. At this time, Wolf King appeared out of thin air, grinned at Ling Yunfei, and said, Brother Wolf's sense of smell is not to be trifled with. Inside the castle, it could hear the sounds outside, so without Qin Feiyang's explanation, it knew what to do. Ling Yunfei suddenly said, Yes, your nose is more sensitive than a dog's. Dog's nose? Wolf King was stunned, flew up and bit Ling Yunfei's butt. Ouch! Pain. Why did you bite me? Let go. Ling Yunfei roared, sweating in pain. Wolf King bit down hard again, and then loosened his mouth. With a look of disdain he said, How long has it been since you took a bath? So smelly? What? Ling Yunfei was so angry that smoke came out of his head. After biting him, he complained that he was smelly? Why was this guy such a jerk? Besides, how could there be a stench on his body after being in the rain for so long? Cough, cough. Qin Feiyang held back his laughter and coughed dryly. Don't dawdle. Hurry up. Wolf King glared at Ling Yunfei and sniffed. Qin Feiyang asked, "Is that okay?" 5 words floating in the sky, that's nothing. Come with Brother Wolf. The Wolf King chuckled and took a step forward, entering a secret passage on the right. Qin Feiyang was stunned for a moment, then he quickly followed up with a wry smile. This guy really knew how to play tricks. Ling Yunfei chased after it and said angrily, "Is it crazy?" Qin Feiyang laughed and said, "It's not crazy, it just hates it when people compare it with a dog's nose. Last time, I was also bitten by it because of this. You have to remember this in the future, otherwise the next time it won't be your butt." Ling Yunfei asked, "Where is that?" Qin Feiyang said, "Your egg." "My egg?" Ling Yunfei was stunned. Did he have an egg? But then, he understood. He only felt a cold current surging over and enveloping a certain part of his body. He couldn't help but clamp his legs together. Under the lead of Wolf King, they only went deep into the secret passage. About a few hundred breaths passed. A stone door entered their line of sight. Wolf King walked over, stopped in front of the stone door, and sniffed carefully. A moment later, Wolf King opened his mouth and said with a sinister smile, "He's behind this stone door." Although a bit shameless, his nose is really not for show. Ling Yunfei muttered. Qin Feiyang waved his hand and said, "Get out of the way." One man and one wolf quickly retreated to the side. Qin Feiyang took a deep breath, clenched his hands into fists, and covered his fists with true qi, releasing a terrifying aura. Suddenly, like an arrow, he rushed forward and punched the stone door. At the same time, behind the stone door, there was a 5 to 6 meter wide stone room. In the corner of the stone room, there was a large pile of gold coins, like a short mountain. Next to the gold coins, there were also mini qianquan bags piled up. It was simply a huge treasure trove. Jiang Haoyan, Ling Yunfei, Luo Xiong, Lin Liang. Just you wait, sooner or later, I will kill all of them. Leave none alive. A voice filled with killing intent reverberated in the stone chamber. Looking towards the direction of the voice, they saw a stone table in the middle of the stone room. The city lord was sitting at the stone table, looking at the flickering candlelight with a ferocious expression. Boom! Right at this moment, with a loud bang, the stone door shattered. Ooh! The city lord suddenly stood up and looked towards the door, only to see 2 men and a wolf striding into the stone room. "It's you guys." The city lord's expression changed abruptly, his face full of disbelief. Qin Feiyang, Ling Yunfei, and Wolf King sized up the stone room. When they saw the pile of gold coins in qianquan bags, their eyes lit up. Qin Feiyang chuckled and said, "So this is a treasure trove." The city lord said angrily, "Even Luo Xiong and the rest couldn't find this place. How did you guys find it?" Wolf King said proudly, "Hee, of course it's Brother Wolf's credit." The city lord glanced at Qin Feiyang and Qin Yu before his eyes locked onto the Wolf King. His eyes were instantly filled with bewilderment. Wolf King said, "Do you think Brother Wolf is very handsome? Do you want to cry and beg to be Brother Wolf's follower?" "You. Could it be that you are the wolf by Qin Feiyang's side?" The city lord was extremely surprised. "What do you think?" Wolf King chuckled. The city lord's expression changed. He looked at Qin Feiyang and shouted, "You actually dare to collude with Qin Feiyang? Aren't you afraid of being beheaded by King Yan?" The 2 of them were stunned. Qin Feiyang shook his head and laughed. "Actually, I am Qin Feiyang." "What?" The city lord's eyes widened. Jiang Haoyan was Qin Feiyang? Haha, suddenly. He laughed loudly and said, "There's a path to heaven, but you don't want to take it, and there's no door to hell. Since that's the case, prepare to die." Ugh. Qin Feiyang was stunned again and sneered. "Is that so? Then I'll give it a try." As soon as he finished, he took a step forward. The city lord's pupils constricted, and he hurriedly took a step back. "Didn't you want to kill me? Come on." Qin Feiyang joked and took another step forward. The city lord also took another step back and said in a deep voice, "If you turn around and leave immediately, this city lord can consider letting you go." "Why?" Qin Feiyang didn't understand. "Because you're still young and ignorant. That's why you made those mistakes. This city lord is also a person who cherishes talent, so I'll give you a chance to turn over a new leaf." the city lord said without changing his expression. Continue. Qin Feiyang sat on the stone bench, crossed his arms, and looked at him playfully. The city lord stammered and couldn't find a word for a long time. Continue pretending? What? No confidence? Sigh, you're so pitiful. To tell you the truth, the palace lord has already told us about your cultivation being crippled. So don't pretend to be calm there. Qin Feiyang said with a faint smile. The city lord's heart sank to the bottom in an instant. Qin Feiyang shook his head and smiled, saying, For the sake of that pile of treasures, I'll leave you with an intact corpse. Ling Yunfei, do it. Ling Yunfei immediately took out his dagger and stepped forward. Seeing this, the city lord's face turned pale, and he hurriedly knelt on the ground, saying, Jiang Haoyan. No, Qin Feiyang, let me go. I'll give you all the treasures here. Qin Feiyang said indifferently, If I kill you, these treasures will still be mine. Then I'll be your ox and horse. Be your servant. Serve you for the rest of my life. Although I'm crippled now, my connections are good. My value is much greater than Ling Yunfei's. If you can keep him by your side, you can also keep me. The city lord knelt and crawled to Qin Feiyang's feet, wagging his tail and begging for mercy. He had completely lost his previous prestige. Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed and said, Since that's the case, then I'll give you a chance. The city lord was overjoyed and said, Thank you. The corner of Qin Feiyang's mouth rose, and said with a smile, No need to thank me. In the next life, I will definitely keep you by my side and let you serve me. The city lord, who had just heaved a sigh of relief, heard this, and his face turned pale again. If you don't give me a way out, I won't let you feel good either. Suddenly, with a furious roar, he pounced towards Qin Feiyang with an incomparable ferocious aura. Qin Feiyang kicked him away, and said indifferently, You are no longer the original city lord, the current you. I can need you however I want, understand? The city lord was half lying on the ground, staring at him with resentment. Ling Yunfei walked over and sneered. When you sent people to assassinate us back then, you didn't think that there would be a day like this. The city lord hurriedly got up and begged again. Please spare me. I am no longer a threat to you, just treat me as a dog, do me a favor. Wolf King laughed sinisterly. Then why don't you bark a few times for Brother Wolf to hear? If you can make Brother Wolf happy, Brother Wolf will suffer this once and accept you as a follower. You. The city lord was furious, and his eyes were red. Not to mention being humiliated by two former ants. Now he was actually being humiliated by a beast? How hateful. I curse you all to die a horrible death, a horrible death. He let out a fierce roar. He slammed his head on the ground, and his head immediately started bleeding. I swear, even if I become a ghost, I won't let you off. He raised his head, glanced at the two men and the wolf with resentment, and then slammed his head on the ground. With a cracking sound, his skull shattered on the spot. Bang. Following that, he fell to the ground and died. For a moment, the stone room was dead silent. The two men and the wolf did not expect that this person would choose to die. Although it was sad, it was also hateful. Who? Qin Feiyang let out a long breath, got up and walked towards the pile of treasures. This pile of treasures was enough for him to struggle for several years. This was truly an unexpected fortune. It's all Brother Wolf's, no one can snatch it. The Wolf King angrily roared as its saliva flowed out. It pounced on the pile of gold coins before Qin Feiyang could. Its two eyes were seeing stars. Seeing this, Qin Feiyang's face darkened, and he was about to reprimand him. But suddenly, as if he had thought of something, he asked, White-eyed wolf, when you were in the Black Bear King's lair, why did you look at the Black Bear King with a gaze that seemed to be on guard against you? Wolf King said disdainfully, Tisk, how is that possible? Brother Wolf is on good terms with it. Hearing you say that, it does seem a little fishy. Ling Yunfei lowered his head, pondered for a moment, and suddenly revealed a look of realization. He looked at Wolf King and said, I know, you must be thinking about the Black Bear King's treasure. Ba. Don't think that Brother Wolf is so shameless, okay? Brother Wolf just wanted to go in and take a look. Who knew that it would be so stingy, refusing to let Brother Wolf in and even chasing Brother Wolf out? Wolf King said with dissatisfaction. Qin Feiyang and Wolf King's faces twitched. They were afraid that once it went in, the treasures in the treasury would be lost. Chapter 112. Next. Naturally, it was to count the treasures here. Wolf King was responsible for counting the gold coins. Qin Feiyang and Ling Yunfei were responsible for counting the qiankuan bags. Medicinal materials, weapons, elixirs, and so on. There was everything. 2 people and 1 wolf were extremely busy. This jade is good. Ling Yunfei threw a piece of jade to Qin Feiyang. Qin Feiyang caught it in his hand, looked at it a little, and threw it aside. The jade was square, as big as a baby's fist, and the surface was as smooth as a mirror. For ordinary people, this jade was worth a lot, enough to live for a lifetime. But for him it was just SOSO. Because in the imperial palace, the jade paving the road was better than this. No, suddenly. He felt as if he had overlooked something, picked up the jade and looked at it carefully. After a closer look, he found some clues. On the 4 sides of the jade, there was a small crack. This should be a jade box. It was just that because the workmanship was very fine, and the place where the gap met was also very perfect, it was difficult to find at a glance. Qin Feiyang grabbed the top with one hand, and the bottom with the other. With a little force, the jade that originally looked like a hole was divided into 2 halves. At the same time, a strong medicinal fragrance came to his face. Elixir. Qin Feiyang's eyes lit up. He saw a red fire elixir lying quietly in the jade box. At first glance, it looked like a ball of flame. Hey! Ling Yunfei and Wolf King also surrounded, their eyes full of surprise. It seems a little familiar? Qin Feiyang muttered, trying to recall. Suddenly, his eyes lit up, and he said in surprise, "This is the red fire glass elixir." He had seen it before in the imperial capital, but it had been too long, and his memory was a little vague. Red fire glass elixir. Ling Yunfei and Wolf King were shocked. It's Brother Wolf's. Wolf King roared, rushed over like lightning, rolled his tongue, and the red fire glass elixir was gone. Qin Feiyang and Qin Haodong were dumbfounded. Spit it out. The next moment, the 2 of them roared and rushed forward at the same time. Ling Yunfei firmly held down Wolf King, while Qin Feiyang forcefully pried open Wolf King's mouth. Don't bother, Brother Wolf has already swallowed it. Wolf King's sinister laughter resounded in their minds. Bastard! White-eyed wolf. When the 2 of them heard this, they were furious. He wanted to strangle Wolf King to death. Just you wait. Brother Wolf will try and see if he can pull it out. Wolf King raised his butt and let out a smelly fart. This place instantly stank to the heavens. Qin Feiyang quickly got up, covered his nostrils and angrily said, Bastard, can you be any more shameless? Ling Yunfei also pinched his nose and stared angrily at Wolf King. Who told you to hold Brother Wolf and not let go? How is it? Does it smell good? Do you want another one? Wolf King got up and looked at the 2 of them proudly. Scram. Qin Feiyang's face was pitch black, his veins were bulging, but his heart was filled with a sense of powerlessness. With such a shameless bastard around, no one could do anything about it. Boom. At this moment, a powerful aura rushed out from Wolf King's body. Its body size had grown by another size. Its 3-meter-long body was incomparably sturdy, its limbs were thick and powerful, and its 2 pupils were shining brightly. The snow-white fur on her body was like satin, soft and beautiful. Overall, it looked incomparably handsome. Haha! Brother Wolf has broken through. The Wolf King's excited laughter resounded in the minds of the 2. Qin Feiyang and Ling Yunfei looked at each other. They were happy for Wolf King, but they were also full of helplessness. What was done, so they could only give up. Wolf King looked at the 2 of them and chuckled. All right, don't be like this. At most, Brother Wolf doesn't want the other treasures. Qin Feiyang rolled his eyes. Probably, the most precious thing here was the scarlet fire-colored glass pill. Ling Yunfei frowned. The air here is not circulating, it's too smelly, there's no way to continue counting. Mother should be waiting anxiously. Let's put it away first and slowly sort it out when we have time in the future. All right. Qin Feiyang nodded. The 2 of them immediately took action and stuffed everything into the Cosmos bag. Then, under the lead of Wolf King, the 2 of them ran towards the exit. White-eyed wolf, your current strength is equivalent to what star martial master? On the way, Qin Feiyang asked. 9-star martial master. Wolf King chuckled. Damn it. Why don't you go to heaven? Qin Feiyang almost tripped and fell to the ground. This bastard, not only did he not break through, but he also jumped several levels after breaking through. How could he let others live? If those so-called geniuses knew, wouldn't they be so angry that they directly hit the wall? Wolf King was even more proud. But after a while Wolf King asked, Little Qinzi, you have so many perfect martial arts skills, is there any suitable for Brother Wolf? Qin Feiyang was stunned and said, Let me think about it. He thought as he walked. After a while he shook his head and said, No, I didn't expect to know you before, so I didn't pay much attention to it. But don't worry, when we go to Yen City, I will help you keep an eye out. Fierce beasts like Wolf King, who had opened their spiritual wisdom and had a high IQ, could indeed cultivate martial arts skills. The martial arts library of the Imperial Palace did indeed have the martial arts skills of fierce beasts. But at that time he didn't expect to be friends with fierce beasts, so he didn't go to see it. Hundreds of breaths passed. The three of them finally came to the exit. After sending Wolf King into the castle, the two of them jumped out and rushed towards Chunfeng Restaurant. When they entered Chunfeng Restaurant, Qin Feiyang and Lu Ji were stunned. The hall, which was originally full of guests, was only occupied by 3 people: Fatso, Jiang Wei, and Lu Ji. Even if they went to the city lord's mansion to watch the fun, they should have come back. As soon as the 2 of them came back, the 3 of them immediately came to greet them. Lu Ji said worriedly, Yunfei, why are there so many wounds on your body? Let mother have a look. Ling Yunfei felt warm in his heart and said, Mother, I'm sorry to have made you worry, but it's just a small injury, nothing serious. Lu Ji said anxiously, Look at some places you're bleeding, and you still say it's nothing? Ling Yunfei smiled. I'm really fine, I just need to take a healing pill, and I'll be fine in a while. Mother, you go over there and sit, we have something to talk about. Is there anything that mother can't hear? Lu Ji's face was unhappy, but then she smiled and said, You've grown up now, it's normal to have privacy, mother understands. I don't have any difficulties, I just don't want you to worry. Ling Yunfei smiled bitterly. Lu Ji reached out to wipe the rain on Ling Yunfei's face and said with a smile, Mother can see this, but mother already knows what you did in the city lord's mansion. You know? Ling Yunfei was stunned and immediately glared at Fatso and Jiang Wei. Jiang Wei waved his hand. This is not something we said. Fatso rolled his eyes and said, You made such a big noise the whole city was alarmed, it's hard for Auntie not to know. Ling Yunfei was stunned. The wry smile on his face became thicker. Qin Feiyang asked, What's going on here? Fatso smiled and said, We have a big rich man here. After you left, he didn't say anything and directly booked the whole Chunfeng Lu. That is to say, we can party here tonight. Although he didn't mention a name, there's only one person who would do such a thing, and that's Jiang Wei. Qin Feiyang looked at Jiang Wei and asked, Did your father come? Jiang Wei nodded. Yes, he left with the great elder not long ago. Qin Feiyang asked, What about the Mujia's lord? Jiang Wei said, He's dead. Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed slightly. He said, If I'm not wrong, your father and the great elder should have gone to the Mujia, right? How do you know? Jiang Wei was surprised. Does this person know how to calculate? Qin Feiyang smiled and didn't explain. It's not difficult to guess. The Mujia's lord and the city lord are in cahoots. Now the Mujia must be notorious. Now that the Mujia's lord is dead, it's undoubtedly the best time to destroy the Mujia. The Jiang clan's lord is a smart person, he won't let go of this good opportunity. As for Luo Xiong and the others, they will inevitably turn a blind eye. The first reason is because of the big man behind the Jiang clan. The second reason is that even if the Jiang clan is dominant, it's only a single clan, it can't threaten the Dan Hall, Martial Arts Hall, and Treasure Pavilion. Okay, Fat Lord is starving, we can talk about it later. Waiter, hurry up and serve the food. Jiang Lao de Ling boy, you should go wash up and change your clothes. Look at you, you're worse than a beggar. Fatso said impatiently, his face full of contempt. Arrogant? Ling Yunfei raised his eyebrows and sneered. If I don't drink you later, my surname is not Ling. I'm not afraid of you, hurry up. Don't let Fat Lord wait for too long. Fatso provoked. That night, although there were only a few people, Chun Feng House was filled with laughter. Later, the Jiang clan's lord and the Grand Elder also came. As for the Mujia, needless to say, they were removed from the Black Bear City. The next day, early morning. The rain stopped last night. The sun slowly rose. A new day has come. Qin Feiyang opened the window and looked at the clear sky. His eyes were deep, he whispered. Mother, your son is doing well now, don't worry. He will go to Yen City soon. Although there is still a long way to go, although there will be many dangers on the way, he will keep going and never retreat. My head hurts. At this time, Ling Yunfei pushed the door and walked in. While walking towards Qin Feiyang, he rubbed his temples, his whole body exuding a strong smell of alcohol. Last night, he, Fatty, and Jiang Wei all drank themselves to the ground. So they directly stayed in Chun Feng House. Walking to Qin Feiyang, Ling Yunfei looked outside and asked, Did I embarrass myself last night? Qin Feiyang laughed. You only need to tear down Chun Feng House. This damn Fatso and Jiang Wei, how can they drink so much? Ling Yunfei was a little annoyed. Qin Feiyang smiled and asked, The Martial King Hall will not allow you to take Auntie with you. What are you going to do? Ling Yunfei said, I have already thought about it. Let Mother continue to stay in the Martial King Hall for a while. And when I settle down in Yen City, I will take her with me. The hall master also agreed. Qin Feiyang nodded. Not bad, at least her safety is guaranteed. By the way, now you know why Auntie was imprisoned? Yes, Mother told me. Ling Yunfei nodded, his eyes bursting with hatred. At this time, a disciple of the Martial King Hall ran in breathlessly and said, Junior brother Yunfei, why are you still here? Come back with me, senior sister Ling, or is going to go crazy. Ah. Ling Yunfei was shocked and said to Qin Feiyang, I will tell you about this later, I will go back first. Then he turned and left in a hurry. Ling I really hope I will not see this woman again. Chapter 113. Back at the Pill Hall. Qin Feiyang and Fatso were called to Luo Xiong's courtyard. Luo Xiong, Feng Cheng, and Elder Mo sat at the stone table in the courtyard. Greetings, Hall Master. Greetings, elders. The two of them walked over and bowed. Luo Xiong continued. Since we are about to head to the Pill Emperor Hall, this hall has nothing much to say. I'll only say one thing, don't throw our face away. Especially Fatty, don't be as lazy as you are now. When did I? Fatso pouted and felt wronged. Still talking back? Let me tell you, the Danwang Hall isn't the Pill Hall. If you want to survive in the Danwang Hall, it's useless to play tricks. The only way is to work hard to prove your worth. Otherwise, you'll be mercilessly eliminated. Until the end, you'll be abandoned. Luo Xiong shouted. This disciple will remember. This disciple will definitely change. Seeing Luo Xiong getting angry, Fatso hurriedly promised. Luo Xiong glared at him and took out a brocade pouch from his chest. He threw it to Qin Feiyang and smiled. Open it after we leave Black Bear City. I guarantee you'll be surprised. Yes. Qin Feiyang replied and put the brocade pouch into his bosom. Hall Master, what about me? Seeing that Qin Feiyang still had a gift, Fatso couldn't take it anymore. He looked at Luo Xiong eagerly. Luo Xiong was too lazy to talk nonsense with him and ignored him. At this moment, Lin Chen and Lu Hong walked into the courtyard. Lin Chen nodded to Qin Feiyang and saw Luo Xiong. He cupped his hands and smiled. Hall Master Luo, it's getting late. We have to go. Luo Xiong nodded. There was a hint of reluctance in his eyes. Feng Cheng and Elder Mo were the same. Who would be willing to give up a disciple who could refine supreme-grade pills to others? But there was no other way. Staying in the pill hall would only delay this kid's future. Feng Cheng waved his hand and said, Go, go. Don't be annoyed. Goodbye. Lin Chen cupped his fists and turned to leave the courtyard. Fatso and Lu Hong also bowed deeply and turned to follow. Qin Feiyang glanced at the three people, bowed 90 degrees and said gratefully, Hall Master Elder Feng, Elder Mo, thank you for your care these days. If there is a future, this disciple will definitely repay you. He had never respected the heavens or the earth. However, the three people in front of him were worthy of his respect. As for what would happen in the future, that would have to wait. The three of them laughed. His painstaking efforts were not in vain. Fengcheng smiled. If you encounter any difficulties in Yan City, go to Ling. This old man has already told her to help you. Ugh. Qin Feiyang was stunned. This was really not what he wanted. The only thing he could do was to keep a respectful distance from this woman. Seeing this, frowning, Fengcheng asked, "Is my granddaughter so unpleasant to you?" Qin Feiyang hurriedly said, No, it's just that this disciple is afraid of being unworthy." "Humph, don't put on an act in front of this old man, hypocrite." Fengcheng snorted coldly, glanced at Lin Chen who was far away, got up and walked to Qin Feiyang's side, and said in a low voice, "There is one thing this old man needs your help with." "What is it?" Qin Feiyang asked. Fengcheng said, "Help this old man look after Ling, or don't let her get too close to Lin Chen." This. Qin Feiyang felt bitter in his heart. Wasn't this clearly making things difficult for him? Fengcheng's face instantly darkened and he frowned. "What? This old man has helped you so much, and you're not even willing to do this little favor?" "Of course I'm willing. This disciple will do his best." Qin Feiyang nodded. Hearing this, Fengcheng's old face was immediately filled with smiles and he nodded. "That's more like it. Go quickly, remember to come back often in the future." Qin Feiyang nodded, and after bidding farewell to the three of them, he chased after Fatso and the others. West City Gate. 2 men and 2 women stood in front of the city gate. Their temperament was outstanding, and their clothes were gorgeous, like cranes in a flock of chickens, and they were particularly eye-catching. 2 of them were the masked woman, Ling Yunfei. The other 2 were about 16 or 17 years old. The woman's long hair draped over her shoulders, and her clothes fluttered in the wind, and she was quite beautiful. The man was about 1.75 meters tall, and his expression was cold, and his eyes were sharp, giving off a cold feeling that kept people 1,000 miles away. These 2 were also disciples of the martial arts hall, who were going to the Martial King Hall. As for the masked woman, she was still wearing a tight-fitting outfit, which showed off her perfect figure, and she looked valiant and extremely capable. She crossed her arms in front of her chest, and her back was leaning against the city wall. Her eyes were shining, and no one knew what she was thinking. A moment later, Qin Feiyang and the other 3 walked out of the city gate. Ling Yunfei went up and smiled. "You're finally here." "Why are you here?" Qin Feiyang frowned. Ling Yunfei said, "Take a look for yourself." Qin Feiyang looked around, and when he saw the masked woman, his heart suddenly felt like it had eaten Chinese gold thread. What he was afraid of, it really came. "Ling, or I knew you would wait for me." Lin Chen was overjoyed and quickly walked towards the masked woman. But the masked woman didn't care about him at all. She looked up at Qin Feiyang and said indifferently, "Let's go." As soon as she finished speaking, she took the lead and walked towards the mountain range ahead. Lin Chen hurriedly followed after him. Lu Hong also quickly followed. Fatso walked to Qin Feiyang's side and whispered, "Did you see that? What is called cheap? Be careful, trouble comes from the mouth." Qin Feiyang glared at him. "Brother Haoyan, please take care of me on the way." The woman from the martial arts hall walked over and smiled. Ling Yunfei introduced. "She is senior sister Chening, and this cold and handsome guy is senior brother Su Jian. They are both 5-star martial masters, and the 2 most powerful disciples of the martial arts hall." Cheng Ying rolled her eyes at Ling Yunfei and looked at Qin Feiyang. "Don't listen to junior brother's nonsense." Chen Jian said coldly, "That's right, it's pure nonsense." The masked woman glanced back at them and shouted, "What are you still waiting for? Do you not want to go?" Ling Yunfei and the other 2 froze and hurriedly turned to chase after her. "Tigress," Qin Feiyang muttered. Fatso laughed. "It's not good to talk about your fiancé like that." "I said it was just a misunderstanding." Qin Feiyang was helpless. "Who would believe that?" Fatso sneered and patted Qin Feiyang's shoulder. He gave a thumbs up and said, Seeing your fiancé being entangled by another man and still being indifferent, I have to say, you are really awesome. Qin Feiyang's face darkened and said angrily, "Are you asking for a beating?" Fatso said, "Don't be ungrateful. Fat Lord is also doing it for your own good. If this continues, you might be cuckolded one day." Qin Feiyang's veins bulged as he suddenly kicked the fatty's butt. The fatty fell flat on his face on the spot, and fell to the ground. "Bastard, even if Fat Lord is meddling in other people's business, don't come to Fat Lord for comfort when you are cuckolded in the future." The fatty got up, cursed at Qin Feiyang, and ran away as if his life depended on it. Qin Feiyang shook his head and smiled bitterly. He chased after them with big strides. It seemed that it was impossible to clear up this misunderstanding. He couldn't blame others. He could only blame himself. Suddenly, he remembered the brocade bag that Luo Xiong gave him. He took out the brocade bag and opened it. There was a neatly folded piece of paper inside. "What is it?" Fatso retreated and looked at it curiously. "Can you not be like a follower?" Qin Feiyang frowned. "Fat Lord is willing. What can you do?" Fatso snorted. Qin Feiyang was full of helplessness towards this Fatso. He took out the paper and opened it. His eyes suddenly lit up. It was actually the pill formula of the scarlet glazed pill. Fatso said angrily, "Damn, the palace master is too biased?" Qin Feiyang was secretly happy. The pill palace really did have the pill formula of the scarlet glazed pill. But he didn't expect Luo Xiong to give it to him in this way. Phew. After letting out a long breath, he put away the pill formula, looked back at Black Bear City, and muttered, "Thank you." "Jiang Haoyan, Fatso, hurry up and catch up," Lin Chen shouted in front. "Coming." Qin Feiyang responded and quickly caught up. Fatso complained along the way. Soon, the group of 8 left Black Bear City. Gradually, they entered a deep mountain. Along the way, they encountered more and more fierce beasts. But so far, they had not encountered an existence that they could not defeat. Chunning was puzzled. "Senior Sister Ling, why don't we take the road? Or ride to Yen City?" The masked woman said coldly, "Don't forget, you are now a disciple of the Martial Imperial Palace, not a rich young lady. If you are tired, it is not too late to return to Black Bear City." Chun Ying's expression stiffened. He lowered his head and did not dare to speak again. Fatso rolled his eyes and asked, "Senior brother Lin Chen, as alchemists, we don't have to suffer with them, right?" Lin Chen smiled. "It's good to suffer a little." "Damn this cheap man, living is a waste of air." Fatso cursed secretly. Everyone present could see Lin Chen's motive. It was nothing more than wanting to curry favor with the masked woman. It was just that no one could say it out loud. "We are about to reach the Eagle Claw Peak. Be alert and pay attention to the surroundings," the masked woman shouted. Eagle Claw Peak. Fatso's body trembled. His eyes were filled with fear. Ling Yunfei, Chening, Su Jian, and Lu Hong also revealed a dignified expression. Seeing this, Qin Feiyang frowned. Could it be that this Eagle Claw Peak was not a good place? After passing through a dense forest and over a mountain ridge, a magnificent mountain range entered their line of sight. The mountains overlapped one another, tall and straight. One of the giant peaks was the most spectacular. The giant peak covered a radius of several thousand meters, and was more than 1,000 feet tall. It towered into the sky and a majestic aura rushed towards them, attacking their souls. But at the edge of the giant peak, there were 5 other peaks. Each of them was more than 100 feet tall, and curved in shape. As far as the eye could see, it really looked like a giant eagle claw, towering between the clouds. It could be said to be a work of the gods. Looking at the Eagle Claw Peak, the fear in Fatso's eyes intensified. He anxiously said, "Senior brother Lin Chen, let's take a detour." Lin Chen smiled. "Along the way, we will listen to Ling, Damn." Hearing this, Fatso was instantly enraged. He roared, "If you want to pick up a girl, Fat Lord won't stop you. But shouldn't there be a limit? Listening to everything she says. Are you still a fucking man?" Lin Chen's smile froze. He turned around and looked at Fatso. A cold light flashed in his eyes. Fatso immediately shrunk his neck and hid behind Qin Feiyang. He asked hesitantly, "Did Fat Lord say something wrong?" Seeing this. Chapter 114. Fatty still wanted to say something, but when Lin Chen glared at him, he swallowed the words that were about to come out of his mouth. Jiang Laoda, aren't you going to say something? He looked helplessly at Qin Feiyang. Although Qin Feiyang's strength was not as good as Lin Chen's, in terms of status, he would definitely surpass Lin Chen after going to the Danwang Hall. After all, he could refine the best quality pills, so the Danwang Hall would definitely focus on training him. Lin Chen raised his eyebrows and didn't say anything. He just stared at Qin Feiyang. Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed and he smiled. Since senior brother Lin Chen is leading the team, we should listen to him. As for picking up girls, it's a bit unpleasant to say. It should be said that a gentleman wants to court a fair and graceful lady. Lin Chen smiled. This kid was quite sensible. Fatso was a bit dissatisfied, but under Qin Feiyang's signal, he didn't say anything. Then let's go. The masked woman waved her hand, and the group rushed towards the forest below. The Eagle Claw Peak was at least 5 or 6 miles away from their current location, and there were many fierce beasts on the way. However, Qin Feiyang and the others didn't have to do anything, because Lin Chen did it himself. Everyone knew that he wanted to show off in front of the masked woman. But the masked woman didn't seem to appreciate it. Along the way, she didn't say a word to him. He was the only one doing the talking. Qin Feiyang and Fatso walked at the back. Fatso whispered, Jiang Laoda, why are you following him? Are you afraid of him? Qin Feiyang shook his head. I can't be afraid. There are many dangers along the way. It's easy for him to kill us. So before we reach the Danwang Hall, try not to fight with him. Really? Why don't you look like you're scared? Fatso looked at him suspiciously. Qin Feiyang rolled his eyes and said, I'm just pretending to be calm. Oh. Fatso seemed to understand, but he still didn't believe it. Because Qin Feiyang's words and actions were too calm, without the slightest hint of nervousness or uneasiness. Of course, Qin Feiyang wasn't afraid. If there was any danger, he would hide in the castle. Who could do anything to him? Qin Feiyang asked, What's so scary about the Eagle Claw Peak that makes you so scared? Fatso said, In the past, not a single person who entered the Eagle Claw Peak came back alive. There were even rumors that said that even the war monarch did not return. Don't you think that's terrifying? Hearing Fatso's words, Qin Feiyang couldn't help but feel nervous. If the rumors were true, then the danger level of the Eagle Claw Peak was comparable to the Black Bear Mountain. Fatso said, Oh right, the last time you asked Fat Lord to inquire about the matter, Fat Lord found out that it was the Jiang and Mu families that massacred the Ling family. Qin Feiyang said, I already know this. Do you know the name of that tigress? Of course I do. Her name is Fengling Heir. She is in charge of the Martial Imperial Palace's assessment this time. That's why Ling Yunfei and the rest are so afraid of her. That's not right. Aren't you her fiancé? How come you don't even know her name? Are you pretending to be stupid again? Fatso's eyes carried a trace of disdain. Is there a need for me to pretend? Qin Feiyang was puzzled. Why didn't they believe him? Moreover, with his current relationship with Fengling Heir, no matter how he looked at it, it didn't seem like they were engaged. There must be something wrong with these people's brains. Ah! Suddenly, a scream was heard. Qin Feiyang and Fatso were shocked. They hurriedly looked up and immediately saw Lu Hong sitting on the ground. Her lips were purple and her face was pale, like a dead person's face. Poisoned. These two words appeared in their hearts at the same time. Get out of the way. Fengling Heir shouted and slapped the ground with her palm. Boom. The ground exploded and dead branches and leaves flew all over the sky. A poisonous snake as thick as an arm rushed out from the ground, revealing its white fangs. It avoided Fengling Heir and shot towards Chunning. A martial ancestor-level crane-crowned snake. Qin Feiyang's eyes widened. Without any hesitation, he quickly retreated. Fatso ran faster than him. In the blink of an eye, he had escaped more than 10 meters away. I'm here, and you still want to overturn the sky? Fengling Heir snorted and took a step forward. Like a bolt of lightning, she instantly caught up with the crane-crowned snake. Immediately, her jade-like hand shot out. She grabbed the crane-crowned snake's tail and slammed it down. Bang! Hiss! The crane-crowned snake's head hit a rock on the spot, and it wailed in pain. Immediately after, Feng Ling Er stepped on the crane-crowned snake's weak spot and firmly pressed it to the ground. She took out a dagger and cut off the crown of flesh on its head and threw it to Su Jian. Su Jian hurriedly fed it to Lu Hong. Her condition immediately began to improve. It could be said that the effect was immediate. But Feng Ling Er's methods were even more shocking. Facing a martial ancestor-level crane-crowned snake, she was actually able to subdue it without batting an eyelid. She was really too valiant. Feng Ling Er glanced at them and asked, "Do you like steamed, fried, or barbecued?" "But I like stewed." Qin Feiyang was stunned. Could it be that this woman was also a foodie? Without waiting for them to answer, Feng Ling Er lowered her head and looked at the crane-crowned snake. She smiled and said, "Little fellow, I'm sorry, but you'll be my dinner tonight." As soon as she finished speaking, she waved the dagger and directly cut off the crane-crowned snake's head. Blood spurted out. "Savage," Qin Feiyang muttered in his heart. With such a valiant character, wasn't she afraid that she wouldn't be able to get married? It seemed like she wasn't afraid because there was a thick-skinned person surrounding her and trying to curry favor with her. This person was naturally Lin Chen. Lin Chen quickly ran to Feng Ling Er and said with a smile, "Ling Er, give it to me first. When I find water, I'll wash it clean. I'll stew a big pot of snake soup for you tonight to nourish you." He seemed to be used to Feng Ling Er's valiance and wasn't surprised at all. "Okay, take it." Feng Ling Er casually threw it to him. With free labor, it would be a waste not to use it. Then she looked at Qin Feiyang and the rest and shouted, "Now all of you cheer up. Otherwise you won't be so lucky next time." After this incident, Qin Feiyang and the rest didn't dare to be distracted. You go in front and clear the path." Feng Ling Er pointed at Qin Feiyang and Fatso. Fatso's face instantly turned pale. He hurriedly said, "How can this be? Madam, please spare me." Lin Chen smiled and said, "You two listen to Ling Er and clear the path. It's also a training for you." He was very happy now, because he could see that Feng Ling Er was deliberately targeting Qin Feiyang. This meant that there was no relationship between the two of them. However, Fatso was about to explode in anger. "Let's go, don't dawdle." Qin Feiyang patted his shoulder and walked to the front. When he passed by Lin Chen, a cold light flashed in the depths of his eyes. Even a clay bodhisattva has some anger, let alone a human. Once or twice, he could treat it as if it didn't matter. But if it exceeded the limit of his patience, then don't blame him for being impolite. The fierce beasts near the Eagle Claw Peak were very powerful. After a while, the two of them were riddled with scars. Of course, when encountering powerful fierce beasts, Feng Ling Er and Lin Chen didn't dare to be careless and killed them in time. When they arrived at the foot of the Eagle Claw Peak, it was already noon. Not only Qin Feiyang and Lin Chen, but everyone was covered with scars. Because the closer they were to the Eagle Claw Peak, the more fierce beasts there were and the stronger they were. No one could stay out of it. After fighting for several hours, the 8 of them were sitting on top of a huge black rock, panting heavily. Feng Ling Er said, "Quickly heal your wounds. After half an hour, we will go up the mountain." "Go up the mountain?" Qin Feiyang looked up at the peak of the mountain and frowned. With their current state, how long would it take for them to climb up a mountain that was over 1,000 feet tall? The most important thing was, why would they go up the mountain? He hated the feeling of being led by the nose. What was Feng Ling Er planning? After taking a healing pill, he turned around and glanced at the Eagle Claw Peak, his eyes flickering. Whoosh! Suddenly, a streak of black light flashed in his line of sight. "What is it?" Qin Feiyang was surprised and looked carefully. But in the jungle he couldn't find anything. Was it an illusion? Maybe it was because of fatigue. But just when he believed that it was an illusion, another black light appeared and disappeared in an instant. He suddenly got up. The first time might be an illusion, but the second time, it was definitely not. He bit his tongue hard and his whole body was instantly energized. Immediately, without saying a word, he jumped down from the boulder and ran towards the place where the black light appeared. What is he doing? Was he driven crazy by senior sister Ling? Seeing this, Ling Yunfei and others were very surprised. Feng Ling'er's eyes were also firmly locked on Qin Feiyang, with a trace of doubt in her beautiful eyes. Suddenly, she also caught a wisp of black light in the jungle, fleeting. We can't let Jiang Haotian take the lead. Feng Ling'er's spirit was refreshed. She quickly jumped down from the boulder and chased after Qin Feiyang. Fatso asked, "What should we do?" Ling Yunfei said angrily, "Nonsense, of course we'll go together." Several people got up one after another, with a head full of doubts, and ran away. At this time, Feng Ling'er had already caught up with Qin Feiyang and said angrily, "Breaking in like this, don't you know it's dangerous here?" Qin Feiyang sneered and said, "Aren't you here too? Let's not beat around the bush. What do you want to do?" Feng Ling'er's pupils shrank. She shook her head and said, "I just want to bring you here to gain experience. There's no other purpose." "I don't think you'll be so kind." Qin Feiyang sneered. The two were as fast as lightning. Feng Ling'er's eyes flashed with a trace of slyness. She suddenly stretched out her hand, grabbed Qin Feiyang's clothes, and threw him back. Qin Feiyang flew out and rolled to the ground more than 10 meters behind. "Damn stinky woman." Qin Feiyang was furious. He got up and looked up. Seeing that Feng Ling'er did not stop and was still running forward, he suddenly sneered. This woman really had a problem. "Jiang Haotian, we've already entered the hinterland of the Eagle Claw Peak. With your strength, rushing to the front is purely to die. Go to the back and stay." Lin Chen caught up, shouted at Qin Feiyang, and chased after Feng Ling'er without looking back. It's still unknown who's going to die. Chapter 115. He wasn't worried at all, because in front he could sense several powerful auras. It must be the beasts. When these beasts were alarmed, Feng Ling'er and Lin Chen, who were running in front, would inevitably become the first target of the beasts. However, what was that black light that appeared from time to time? Qin Feiyang could sense the aura of the beasts, so could Feng Ling'er and Lin Chen. Therefore, they were extra careful and tried not to make a big movement. If they could avoid it, they would try to avoid it. However, the beasts still noticed them. Roar. Moo. Accompanied by two roars, two colossal creatures rushed over from the distance. At this moment, the earth shook and rumbled. The speed of the two beasts was unbelievably fast. One of them was a giant black panther. It was 4 to 5 meters long, and its fur was as black as ink. The fangs in its wide mouth were 1 foot long, like sharp blades, making people tremble with fear. The other beast was a black bull. Its huge body was twice the size of the black panther. Those hairs were like steel needles, emitting a cold light. Especially the two horns on the top of its head, which were several meters long and indestructible. In front of it, there was a huge rock that was bigger than an ordinary house, but in the end, it collapsed. Seeing this, even with Qin Feiyang's temperament, he couldn't help but have the thought of turning around and running away. Not to mention Fatso and the others. They stopped and didn't dare to take another step forward. Their eyes were full of horror. Feng Ling'er also paused. There was a trace of fear in her eyes. But then, she gritted her teeth and pounced on the black panther. At the same time, she shouted to Lin Chen, "Help me restrain that black bull." "No problem." His goddess asked for help. Lin Chen couldn't be happier. How could he refuse? He didn't even think about it and directly nodded in agreement. With a rolling aura, he rushed toward the black bull. Good chance. Qin Feiyang's eyes flickered as he rushed forward. Feng Ling'er and the two ferocious beasts had already clashed. The two of them were also very ferocious. They were actually on par with the two ferocious beasts, and it was difficult to determine the victor. A dozen breaths later, Qin Feiyang finally caught up to the two of them. He circled around them and joked. As expected of the outstanding disciples of the Danwang Hall and Martial Emperor Hall. Keep it up, I have high hopes for you guys. Jiang Haotian, stop right there. Feng Ling'er shouted coldly, extremely angry. Let me give you a word of advice. The person who runs in front is not necessarily the first to reach the finish line. Everything depends on the brain. Forget it, I'm not going to talk nonsense with you. Anyway, you're just a brainless woman with big boobs. Qin Feiyang mockingly glanced at Feng Ling'er. and ran towards the source of the black light without looking back. I have big breasts but no brains. Jiang Haotian, just you wait. Today, I swear I won't stop until I break your bones. Feng Ling was furious. At this moment, she was like a crazy tigress, making the Black Panther unable to bear it. Lin Chen comforted, Linger, don't worry. There are still many ferocious beasts lurking in front. If he doesn't know what's good for him, he will definitely die. Can you stop talking nonsense? Quickly finish them off. Feng Ling said angrily. Although that brat was a bastard and very vile, in terms of brains he was many times stronger than Lin Chen. They were both men. Why was the difference so big? In front, Qin Feiyang ran wildly, while paying full attention to the movements around him. Boom. Suddenly, not far away, a ferocious beast lifted the ground and shot out. It was actually an extra large rat. It was a meter long and had dense fangs. It was extremely terrifying. Qin Feiyang's body and mind tensed up as he entered the castle without hesitation. Squeak. The rat missed its target. It cried out anxiously as it looked around in bewilderment. After a while, with a trace of doubt, it rushed towards Feng Ling and Lin Chen. After a while, Qin Feiyang appeared out of thin air again. He let out a long breath and continued to run forward. Next, he encountered another 5 ferocious beasts and repeated the same trick. In the end, the 5 ferocious beasts couldn't find anyone and ran towards the back. What's going on? Why are the ferocious beasts running over? Where's Jiang Haotian? Where is he? Looking at the ferocious beasts running over, Feng Ling was extremely shocked and angry. Lin Chen was also very surprised. Could it be that this person could turn invisible? In addition to the Black Bull and the Black Panther, they now had to face 8 martial ancestor-level ferocious beasts. However, Feng Ling didn't retreat at all. She took out a 3-feet-long sword, and was completely in a desperate posture. At this time, Qin Feiyang finally arrived at the place where the black light appeared. He looked around. Other than the trees, bushes and weeds, he didn't find anything strange. Ayo! At this moment, on the hillside above, a wolf howl sounded. Qin Feiyang instinctively shouted, "White-eyed wolf, what are you howling for?" He had been with Wolf King for too long. When he heard the wolf howl, his first reaction was to think of Wolf King. But in the next moment, he realized that something was wrong. Wasn't Wolf King in the castle? He suddenly looked up. He saw a black wolf standing on the hillside more than 10 meters high, staring at him fiercely. The black wolf's size was twice as big as Wolf King. The strength of the two was definitely worlds apart. That huge body exuded an incomparable ferocious aura. Qin Feiyang quivered and hurriedly said, "Brother Wolf, we can be considered family, don't fight." The black wolf looked at him suspiciously. Its eyes seemed to be saying, "Where did this fool come from?" Qin Feiyang said, "Brother Wolf, I really didn't lie to you. You and I are really family, because I have a companion by my side. It is a wolf." In order to appease the black wolf, he was also going all out. But the black wolf revealed a look of disbelief. Its ferocious aura was even stronger than before. Its fangs were even exposed, thinking that Qin Feiyang was fooling it. At this moment, Qin Feiyang noticed that a black light swept out from the side of the mountain wall. After reaching the air, it immediately disappeared. This time he saw it clearly. It was not a black light, but a wisp of black smoke. From the Eagle Claw Peak? He was extremely surprised. What was the black smoke? Ayo! The black wolf finally lost its patience. With a leap, it pounced towards Qin Feiyang. "Brother Wolf, save me!" Qin Feiyang shouted. With a thought, Wolf King appeared out of thin air. Having found the source of the black smoke, he didn't want to hide and waste time with the black wolf. So now he could only count on Wolf King. Ayo! As soon as Wolf King came out, it howled at the black wolf. The black wolf was surprised. It steadily landed in front of the man and the wolf and retracted its fangs. Subsequently, the two wolves looked at each other, growling continuously. Seeing that it was endless, Qin Feiyang couldn't help but ask, "White-eyed wolf, what did it say?" Wolf King said, "It asked Brother Wolf, why do you want to be friends with a human like you? Then it asked where Brother Wolf came from? Anyway, it asked a lot, but it wasn't very important. But it told me that the Eagle Claw Peak was empty, and there was a kind of alchemy fire. Alchemy fire. Qin Feiyang's body and mind trembled. Wolf King said, "That's right, but what?" Qin Feiyang asked hurriedly. Wolf King said, "It said that the alchemy fire has an owner, and the owner of the alchemy fire is inside the Eagle Claw Peak. He is extremely powerful, and all the people who have come here before have been killed by him." Qin Feiyang's pupils suddenly shrank. Originally, when he heard Fatso say that this was a place of no return, he was still skeptical. He didn't expect it to be true. But the alchemy fire. He was too eager. Even this time he was determined to win. The black wolf roared a few more times at Wolf King. Wolf King said, "Little Qin Zi, it told us not to go in, we will die." Qin Feiyang clenched his fists tightly, struggling in his heart. In the end he clenched his teeth and said in a deep voice, "How can we get a tiger cub without entering the tiger's den? We have the ancient castle to protect us, let's take a gamble." The two wolves roared at each other. Wolf King said, "It said that the entrance is at the peak of the mountain, but there is a war chief realm ferocious bird on the peak of the mountain. If it finds us, we will still die. Are we going to give up just like that?" Qin Feiyang was extremely frustrated. A war chief realm ferocious bird was even more terrifying than the Black Bear King, because the ferocious bird could fly. Once it flew into the sky, you could only stare. But it could hunt you down at any time. At this time, another wisp of black smoke spewed out from the mountain wall. Seeing this, Qin Feiyang's mind flashed, and he thought of a way. The black wolf said that the Eagle Claw Peak was empty. Since the black smoke could come from here, it meant that there might be a weak point here that could lead to the inside. "Let's do it," Qin Feiyang said. "Make way." The two wolves retreated to the side. The true qi surged, and Qin Feiyang punched the mountain wall with all his might. Soil flew everywhere, and a huge pit appeared. "Ew!" The black wolf immediately growled at Qin Feiyang. Qin Feiyang asked curiously, "What did it say?" "It said that this method won't work. It might alarm the person inside. At that time, not only will we suffer, even it will be finished." Wolf King acted as a translator. "Then tell it that we can protect it." After Qin Feiyang finished speaking, he entered the pit and punched out again. It became several meters deeper. Cough cough. However, the dust inside made Qin Feiyang cough nonstop, and even breathing was difficult. Boom. He held his breath and crazily bombarded it, forcefully creating a passage. As he went deeper and deeper, the black smoke became thicker and thicker. After about 10 breaths of time, he suddenly punched out a hole with a diameter of 2 meters, and a choking black smoke surged out. The black smoke was too thick, and the scene outside the hole could not be seen. However, when the mud and gravel fell, it would shake and echo for a long time. This meant that there was a large space outside this hole. Qin Feiyang retreated from the passage and came to Wolf King's side. The passage was like a chimney, and black smoke kept pouring out. This place was quickly enveloped and spread to the surrounding void at a rapid speed. Why is there black smoke suddenly coming out from there? Ling Yunfei and the others had already retreated. They stood on the huge rock at the foot of the mountain and looked at the black smoke rising into the sky. They were all shocked and bewildered. "Jiang Haotian, you bastard! I won't forgive you." Feng Ling Er and Lin Chen also noticed it. The former gritted her teeth and was about to go crazy. The latter, like Ling Yunfei and the others, was shocked and bewildered. Chapter 116. Black smoke surged, covering the sky and the sun. Chirp. A high-pitched chirp suddenly sounded from the top of the mountain. Awo. Hei Lang's pupils constricted, and it kept growling at Wolf King. Wolf King hurriedly said, "Little Qin Zi, it said that the ferocious birds on the top of the mountain have been alarmed." Before he finished speaking, a huge falcon flapped its pitch-black wings. Like a short mountain, it broke through the layers of black smoke and whistled over. At this moment, whether it was Qin Feiyang, Wolf King, or Hei Lang, they could not help but feel their hair stand on end. "You guys go to the castle. Qin Feiyang made a prompt decision and sent Wolf King and Hei Lang into the castle. Then he held his breath and rushed into the black smoke, into the passage, and ran inside. Chirp! The falcon whistled over. It flapped its wings and a strong wind blew. The black smoke here was blown away in an instant. When it saw the passage, its long and narrow eyes flashed with a terrifying ferocious light. When its claws fell, the mountain collapsed and the ground cracked. The passage was also collapsing. Qin Feiyang stood at the end of the passage and looked at the space inside. Although a large amount of black smoke was released before, he still could not see clearly. It was a little blurry. At most, he could only see the scenery within 2 meters. Boom! Crack! Seeing the passage collapse, his expression changed drastically. He did not care about what was inside and jumped down from the hole, falling straight down. At the same time, the few ferocious beasts that were fighting with Feng Ling Air immediately turned around and fled in panic when they saw the falcon appear. Damn it, run! Feng Ling Air's expression suddenly changed. She shouted at Lin Qin and turned to run outside. What did this little bastard do? Lin Qin cursed in his heart as he fled. Chirp! The falcon was extremely ferocious. It pounced on the rat. Its wings were like sharp blades. As it swept past, large trees fell. The fracture was as flat as a mirror. The rat was also extremely fast, but it could not escape the falcon's pursuit. In the end, the falcon grabbed the mouse with its claws and flew towards the peak of the mountain. In the forest, Feng Ling Air stopped and looked up at the falcon flying high in the sky, struggling in her heart. When the falcon landed on the mountain peak and disappeared from her sight, she gritted her teeth and turned back, running towards the weak point. Linger, it's dangerous. Come back quickly. Lin Qin was shocked and hurriedly chased after him. Inside Eagle Claw Peak, Qin Feiyang continued to fall. He felt as if there was a bottomless pit below him. This won't do. If I fall like this, I'll fall to my death. He reached for the rock beside him, but the impact of the fall was too strong, and he couldn't grab hold of the rock. If he were to use force, his arm and fingers would definitely be dislocated or even broken. This was equivalent to adding fuel to the fire. Therefore, he had to take it slow. He kept reaching out with both hands, grabbing one rock after another. When his fingers reached their limit, he would immediately let go. This cycle continued for a dozen breaths, and the impact of the fall was reduced by more than half. Seeing that the time was ripe, he stretched out his hands again without hesitation and grabbed tightly onto a protruding rock. His falling body finally stopped. What should I do now? Qin Feiyang raised his head and looked up. Then he lowered his head and looked down. He frowned slightly. Although he had stopped, he could only see things within 2 meters. So he didn't know if the alchemy fire was below or above him. If he went the wrong way, he would undoubtedly waste a lot of time. Is this black smoke related to the alchemy fire? He began to carefully observe the black smoke. Gradually, he found some subtle abnormalities. The black smoke was rising from below. He pondered for a moment. In the end, he decided to go down and take a look. What if the black smoke was really related to the alchemy fire? But not long after, he found another abnormality. Since there was alchemy fire here, there must be a high temperature. But now he didn't feel any heat at all. In fact, he felt a little cold. That's right. Black Wolf said that alchemy fire had an owner. The owner could control the temperature of the alchemy fire. Thinking of this, a trace of vigilance appeared in his eyes. A person who could own an alchemy fire was definitely a terrifying powerhouse. Perhaps this person was hiding in the dark and spying on him right now. Boom! Not long after, a series of rumbling sounds came from the weak point above. Qin Feiyang frowned. Without thinking, he knew that it must be Feng Ling Air coming. Like him, she also planned to blast a passage through the weak point. I can't let her catch up, he muttered to himself. He used his hands and feet. Like an ape, he leaped onto the roof and vaulted over the wall. His speed was unbelievably fast. About 5 or 6 breaths later, Feng Ling Air and Lin Qin blasted open the weak point. Standing at the edge of the hole, they looked at the internal space in surprise. A large piece of mud and gravel rolled down, smashing on Qin Feiyang's head. It made him furious. Lin Qin asked in disbelief, There's actually another world in the Eagle Claw Peak. Ling, or how did you know? Aren't you annoying? Feng Ling Er raised her eyebrows. Lin Chen smiled embarrassedly. Then should we go up or down? Feng Ling Er said. I don't know if that thing is above or below. That thing? Lin Chen was surprised. Could it be that there was some treasure hidden inside? Chirp. A sharp eagle cry sounded. That falcon once again swooped down from the mountain peak. Feng Ling Er's gaze darkened. The black smoke is rising from below. Let's go down and take a look. The two immediately moved. The falcon once again blocked the passage and flew towards the mountain peak. It felt like it was the guardian of this place. Bang bang bang. Feng Ling Er and Lin Chen's strength was too strong. Rocks were constantly being crushed by them. However, Qin Feiyang, who was below, was suffering. Occasionally, he would be hit in the head by the gravel. Can you guys be gentler? Qin Feiyang could not help but angrily shout. He also went down. Feng Ling Er frowned and said loudly, Jiang Haoyan, this place is too dangerous. You can't do it alone. Let's work together. Not interested. Qin Feiyang indifferently replied. Jiang Haoyan, don't fail to appreciate my kindness. Lin Chen shouted. He retreated while bombarding the stone wall. Pieces of gravel of different sizes poured down like raindrops. This made Qin Feiyang extremely angry. But the trouble was still to come. Feng Ling Er and Lin Chen's cultivation was higher than his. Although they were also crawling on the stone wall, their speed was definitely faster than his. As expected, in less than 10 breaths, Feng Ling Er and Lin Chen caught up. Feng Ling Er joked, you're right. The person who runs at the front is not necessarily the first to reach the finish line. Qin Feiyang said, yes, I did say that. But whether that thing is down there is still unknown. What are you so proud of? You know? Feng Ling Er was surprised. Qin Feiyang said, is it strange? Feng Ling Er said in a deep voice, where did you know? This is not a question you should be concerned about. You should think about how to explain to everyone when you go out. After all, you are using everyone. Qin Feiyang sneered. Feng Ling Er brought them to the Eagle Claw Peak. She definitely wanted to use them as bait to distract the falcon's attention. And she would take the opportunity to enter here. Feng Ling Er frowned, shaking her head. You are wrong. I am not using you. I just want to see if there is a chance. If there is not, I will immediately take you away. Do you think I will still believe you? Qin Feiyang mocked. You are really unreasonable. Since you don't believe me, then we will rely on our own abilities. Feng Ling Er snorted coldly. With a slide, she disappeared from Qin Feiyang's sight. Lin Chen glanced at Qin Feiyang and quickly chased down. Qin Feiyang was puzzled. Feng Ling Er did not take precautions at all. Didn't she know that the alchemy fire had an owner? If this is the case, then it is not bad to let her take the lead. Qin Feiyang raised the corner of his mouth and sneered. It is the alchemy fire. About 20 breaths passed. Below, there was a sudden exclamation. It was Lin Chen who exclaimed. It is really below. Qin Feiyang was ecstatic, but he was more vigilant than before. The alchemy fire was below, which meant that the owner of the alchemy fire must be below. Kiki, you finally came down. The next moment, at the bottom, there was another sinister laugh. Qin Feiyang's body stiffened. It seemed that this person had already discovered them. In this case, they would go down and meet this mysterious person. Because if they wanted to escape now, they would definitely not be able to. After a few breaths, his sight was finally clear. However, when he saw the scene at the bottom, he could not help but feel a chill down his spine. The bottom was very large and round, with a diameter of dozens of meters. And on the ground dozens of meters, there were piles of white human bones. Is this hell? Qin Feiyang jumped down and stood on the white bones. Looking at all this, he could not help but feel a chill down his spine. Feng Ling Er and Lin Chen were standing at the side at this moment, staring at the opposite side, their faces full of horror. Ah, I thought you were going to run away? I didn't expect you to take the initiative to come down. Are you not afraid of death? That sinister voice came from the opposite side. Qin Feiyang looked up, and immediately saw an old man standing at the center of the bottom. The old man's hair was disheveled, and he was skinny. He wore a black robe, and his eyes were deep in the eye sockets. His eyeballs emitted wisps of dark green light. At first glance, he looked like a ghost. Seeing the old man, Qin Feiyang could not help but feel a deep sense of fear in his heart. But when he noticed the alchemy fire beside the black-robed old man, the fear in his heart instantly turned into desire. It was actually a kind of black alchemy fire. It was the size of a baby's palm, and it floated in the void on its own. Wisps of black flames were frantically moving, as if it was beckoning to him. The black smoke also came from the alchemy fire, and here, there seemed to be an invisible aura that isolated the black smoke. Hee hee, you actually dare to ignore my words, kid, you've got guts. The black-robed old man laughed sinisterly, and the green light in his old eyes became more and more intense, more and more terrifying. Qin Feiyang was shocked, and looked away from the alchemy fire with difficulty. He turned to look at the black-robed old man and cupped his hands. Greetings, senior. Senior? The black-robed old man was stunned and said playfully, Don't think that I will let you go just because you call me senior. Chapter 117. Seeing Qin Feiyang's calm face, the black-robed old man was quite surprised. There were still people in this world who were not afraid of death. He took a step forward and instantly arrived in front of Qin Feiyang, as if he had teleported. The two were almost face to face. But Qin Feiyang did not have the slightest timidity, nor did he take half a step back. He looked straight into the eyes of the black-robed old man and said, What do you want to do? Don't play with these empty words. The black-robed old man was stunned. This kid was really not afraid? Swish. He retreated to the side of the alchemy fire and grinned. You are quite interesting, but you still have to die. Do you know why I am hiding here? Why? Qin Feiyang frowned. The black-robed old man said, Have you heard of the blood fiend pill? What? Blood fiend pill? Qin Feiyang and the other two were shocked. The blood fiend pill had an amazing effect, which was to increase one's cultivation. Although it couldn't be like the scarlet glass pill, which could suddenly skyrocket a small realm, as long as there were enough blood fiend pills, the cultivation speed would be many times faster than others. Refining the blood fiend pill required two necessary materials. However, these two materials were truly outrageous, because the materials were human blood and flesh. Moreover, the flesh and blood of mortals was not enough, nor was the flesh and blood of beasts. It must be the flesh and blood of martial artists. Therefore, a long time ago, the first emperor of the Great Qin Empire had already ordered to destroy the pill recipe, and no alchemist was allowed to refine the blood fiend pill. Once found, 9 generations would be killed. Who dared to disobey the power of the emperor? Since then, the pill recipe of the blood fiend pill had been lost. Even the blood fiend pill was slowly forgotten. But later, some alchemists found the pill recipe of the blood fiend pill and tried to refine it. After all, there were many people with evil intentions. When the first emperor ordered to destroy it, some people secretly kept it. But without exception, once they were found, they were chased by everyone in the world. And in the end, they did not have a good ending. Even their relatives were all implicated and died tragically one by one. The lesson of blood made those alchemists with evil intentions no longer dare to have evil thoughts. Could it be that this person was hiding here to refine the blood fiend pill? Jia. I need at most 10,000 blood spirit pills and I will be able to step into the 9-star combat emperor realm. When that time comes, no one in the entire county of Yen will be my match. At that time, the first person I want to kill will be the 4 old dogs of King Yen to take revenge for what happened back then. Haha, the black-robed old man laughed wildly. The terrifying aura around his body pressed down on the 3 of them to the point of suffocation. 9-star combat emperor. In other words, he is now an 8-star combat emperor. Fengling Heir and Fengling Heir were shocked. Not only was he powerful, but he also said that he wanted to kill the king of Yen. Who exactly was this person? Qin Feiyang couldn't help but frown. An 8-star combat emperor was far beyond his expectations. He couldn't help but wonder if the castle could protect him. I've thought about it. 8 years ago, there was an alchemist named Xuan. He was killed by the royal family, the Danwang Hall, the Martial Imperial Palace, and the precious treasure pavilion for refining the blood demon pill. Could it be that you're Xuan's disciple or family member? Lin Chen asked in surprise. Xuan? Qin Feiyang raised his eyebrows. Hee. I didn't expect a junior to remember me. It seems like I was quite famous back then. That's right. I am Xuan. The black-robed old man said. Between his eyebrows, there was less ferocity and more arrogance. Lin Chen's body trembled and he said firmly, impossible. Many people saw you die 8 years ago. I was also watching from the city wall. Although I was still young at that time, I'm sure I saw it clearly. Haha. Everyone thought that I was dead. However, they didn't know that I was lucky enough to escape death back then. At that time, I wanted to leave the county of Yan, but I was unwilling to do so. I didn't complain when they killed me. After all, I made a big mistake. However, why did they kill my family? I wanted to take revenge. Therefore, I decided to stay in the county of Yan and continue to refine the blood demon pill. 8 years have passed, and I've broken through from a 6-star combat emperor to an 8-star combat emperor. Revenge is just around the corner. Xuan bellowed. He was like a demon king, making people shudder in fear. What? In just 8 years you've broken through 2 small realms. Lin Chen and Feng Ling'er's scalp tingled. How many people had died in the hands of this demon king in the past 8 years? Qin Feiyang frowned. He looked at Lin Chen and asked, Xuan, refining the blood demon pill is such a big matter. Why didn't you report it to the imperial capital? 8 years ago, he was still in the imperial capital and had never heard of it. Lin Chen said, I heard from the head of the family that King Yan and the others did not report it because Xuan was already dead. After all, they would be punished if such a thing happened in the county of Yan. As soon as he finished speaking, he frowned and said in surprise, No. How do you know that King Yan and the others did not report it? Yes, how did you know? Feng Ling'er was stunned and looked at Qin Feiyang in surprise. Xuan also looked at Qin Feiyang. His pupils suddenly shrank and he said in horror, Are you from the imperial capital? I'm from the imperial capital. Feng Ling'er and Li Qie were also dumbfounded. Qin Feiyang's heart skipped a beat. He scolded himself for being stupid. Why did he ask such a stupid question? How was he going to justify himself now? Why don't I just beat him at his own game? When he saw Xuan's frightened expression, he raised his head and puffed out his chest. He took a step forward and nodded. That's right, I'm from the imperial capital. When he nodded, the 3 of them were shocked. Seeing this, Qin Feiyang followed up with another attack. He took another step forward. His long hair fluttered in the wind. He looked insufferably arrogant and said, I'm not only from the imperial capital, I'm also the prince of the great Qin Empire. There was a great deterrent force in his words. At the same time, his temperament changed drastically. Originally, he had a bookish aura and gave people a sense of weakness. But now, he exuded the aura of an emperor from head to toe. In fact, this was his essence. Born in the royal family, he had cultivated the aura of an emperor. Even the dukes of the empire would be affected by it, let alone the 3 people in front of him. But this aura of an emperor was restrained after he was expelled from the imperial capital. Prince. Xuan and Feng Ling'er trembled both physically and mentally. The word prince kept echoing in their minds. In fact, they did not believe it. How could a prince be in the county of Yan? But the aura of an emperor was too real and too strong. They could not help but believe it. Qin Feiyang took another step forward. When he was only 3 meters away from Xuan, he shouted, Xuan, you killed innocent people to refine the blood pill. How should you be punished? Xuan's stooped body trembled. He hurriedly said, At this moment, Qin Feiyang used the shifting smoke steps and rushed to Xuan's side. He grabbed the black alchemy fire and disappeared without a trace. Of course, he went to the ancient castle. He was gambling. If the ancient castle was powerful enough to save his life, then he would get the alchemy fire. But if the ancient castle could not save him, then he could only accept his fate. As soon as the alchemy fire disappeared, the black smoke surged and drowned the bottom in an instant. Damned little bastard. Get the hell out here for me. In the black smoke. Xuan was stunned at first. Then he roared and his aura soared. Under the impact of the aura, the black smoke quickly rose into the air. His face was ferocious and his eyes were emitting a gloomy green light. He looked like a man-eating demon. It was terrifying. Feng Ling and Xuan regained their senses. They were forced to retreat by the aura. They kept vomiting blood and their faces were as pale as paper. Little bastard, don't think that you will be fine if you hide. The nether demonic flame has recognized me as its master. I can revive the nether demonic flame with just a thought. It will release a terrifying heat and burn you to ashes. Xuan grinned. But in the next moment, his face changed and he exclaimed, "How is this possible?" He was shocked to find that he had lost contact with the nether demonic flame. He could not even sense where the nether demonic flame was, let alone revive it. It was as if something was blocking him from the nether demonic flame. How can this be? It's impossible. It must be an illusion. Yes, it's an illusion. I will wake up soon. He mumbled in disbelief as he frantically slapped his face, making loud slapping sounds. In the ancient castle, Qin Feiyang heaved a sigh of relief when he heard Xuan's voice. Then, he glanced at the ancient castle and muttered to himself, "Even an 8-star combat emperor can't sense the existence of the ancient castle. Uncle Yuan, is this ancient castle that you left me a sacred object?" Outside, Feng Ling saw that Xuan had completely ignored her and Lin Chen. She said in a low voice, "Let's take this opportunity to slip away." Lin Chen nodded. The two of them retreated silently, but when they reached the stone wall and were about to climb up, Xuan suddenly raised his head and stared at them coldly. The two of them froze and couldn't move. Xuan walked towards them step by step and said in a gloomy voice, "Ask that little bastard to come out and hand over the nether demonic flame. Then I will spare your lives." Feng Ling turned around and shook her head. "I don't know him well. Besides, I don't know where he is now." Lin Chen quickly echoed, "That's right. We have only known him for a few days. We don't know anything about him. Master Zua, please be magnanimous and let us go." "Let you go?" Xuan laughed sinisterly. His voice was like the howling of an owl. Suddenly, he stopped and looked at Lin Chen. "Are you from Yen City?" Yes. I am from Yen City's Lin family." Lin Chen nodded. Xuan's eyes flashed and said, "I remember that the old ancestor of your Lin family was among the people who besieged me outside Yen City 8 years ago. Is he doing well?" Lin Chen smiled. "The old ancestor is doing well. Thank you for your concern." But his smile was unnatural. It was uglier than crying. Xuan laughed sinisterly. "If that's the case, I should take good care of you. You are also an alchemist, right? If you agree to be my disciple, I will spare your life." Lin Chen's expression changed and he quickly said, "Thank you for your concern. But I am already a disciple of the Pill Hall. Moreover, I am not qualified to be your disciple. You should find someone else." Xuan tempted. "If I say that as long as you agree, not only will I give you the Blood Evil Palace, I will also give you the little beauty beside you. Will you agree?" Lin Chen's eyes lit up when he heard this. Qin Feiyang, who was hiding in the ancient castle, frowned. Chapter 118. Qin Feiyang had seen a lot of combat emperors before. Normally, it would take a genius 5 to 6 years to advance a small realm. It was normal for it to take 10 to 20 years. But Xuan only used 8 years to advance 2 small realms. This showed how useful the blood spirit pill was. At the same time, Feng Ling was also the woman that Lin Chen wanted the most. Would Lin Chen be able to resist these 2 temptations? If he couldn't, should he save Feng Ling? Lin Chen was struggling in his heart. Just as Qin Feiyang thought, the double temptation was very tempting. Feng Ling furrowed her brows as she coldly snorted. "Lin Chen, don't forget that you are a member of Swallow City's Lin clan, as well as a core disciple of the Pill Emperor Hall. Don't be blinded by greed and betray your dignity." Lin Chen's body shook. Xuan said, "Lin Chen, you have to understand that you can only live if you agree to be my disciple." Lin Chen was struggling again. "At most I'll die." 20 years later, I'll be a man again. What are you afraid of? Feng Ling shouted. No, I still have a lot of youth. I haven't lived long enough. I don't want to die. Lin Chen kept shaking his head. His heart was in a panic and his faith was wavering. I don't want to die either, but I must have a backbone. And don't forget, not only will the person who made the blood spirit pill be executed, but the person who took the pill will also be despised and hunted down by the world. Wake up. Don't be so obsessed. Feng Ling shouted in exasperation. Lin Chen, don't worry. With my current strength, I can dominate the county of Yan. Who dares to touch you? I promise you, when I become a 9-star combat emperor, it will be the day when you become a 9-star combat emperor. Xuan threw out another bait. Lin Chen's faith was completely crushed. He knelt on the ground and said respectfully, Disciple Lin Chen greets master. Lin Chen, you're just a spineless wretch. Feng Ling was furious. If I wasn't a wretched wretch, would I have pestered you all day long? But what about you? Have you ever been touched? Telling me to come and go as you wish. What do you take me for? A dog. Even a dog has its own pride. Lin Chen roared. His usual smile disappeared, and his face was incomparably ferocious. Feng Ling sneered. So this is your true face? You're right, I'm a hypocrite. Lin Chen sneered and turned his head to look at Xuan. There was a trace of madness in his eyes as he said, Master, this disciple wants to have her now and humiliate her. Please grant me my wish. Haha. I didn't expect you to have the same nature as me. I like it. All right, I'll fulfill your wish now. Xuan laughed out loud. He took a step towards Feng Ling. Don't even think about it. Feng Ling shouted angrily. She took out a dagger and immediately slit her neck. Do you think it's possible to kill yourself in front of me? Xuan snorted and landed in front of Feng Ling in an instant. He waved his old hand and slapped away the dagger in Feng Ling's hand. Feng Ling bit her tongue to commit suicide. But Xuan was faster. He slapped the back of her head, and she fainted on the spot. She fell on the white bones. Lin Chen quickly bent down and reached out to take off Feng Ling's mask. A peerless face immediately appeared in front of him. Looking at those full red lips, Lin Chen's lust was immediately aroused. Xuan scanned the surroundings. The reason why he did this was not because he valued Lin Chen. He just wanted to nurture Lin Chen to be a sharp blade in his hand. For someone like him who had a perverted mentality, it was very satisfying to have the descendant of his enemy serve him. Moreover, he had a decent talent. But there was another main reason. He suspected that Qin Feiyang was hiding nearby. Moreover, he could also see that the relationship between Qin Feiyang and Feng Ling was very complicated. So he wanted to use this method to force Qin Feiyang out. Master, this. Lin Chen turned to look at Xuan and said hesitantly, Can you leave us for a while? He added, By the way, Master, there are 6 people outside. You can capture them and use them to threaten Jiang Haotian. There are more? Xuan frowned and asked, Are they close to that little bastard? Lin Chen sneered and said, There is a person called Ling Yunfei and Fatso. They are very close to him. Great. Xuan was wild with joy. He thought that the little bastard had not come out until now. He might have used some treasure to escape. At this thought, he said to Lin Chen, Master will not disturb you. Have fun. After that, he soared into the air and flew upwards. Along with him was the thick black smoke. 8-star War Emperor. With this backer, who will I be afraid of in the future? Smelly bitch, you didn't expect that you would fall into my hands today, did you? Hee hee, now I'll take off your clothes and admire it. Lin Chen laughed lewdly as his hands reached for Feng Ling's belt. But at this moment, Qin Feiyang suddenly appeared out of thin air, holding the Chong Shuer in his hand, and pounced on Lin Chen. Lin Chen raised his head and his expression changed. He hurriedly tilted his head and dodged. Little bastard, you're courting death. Following closely, he sneered and sent a palm strike towards Qin Feiyang's head. A hair's breadth. Qin Feiyang grabbed Feng Ling's clothes. With a thought, the two of them disappeared without a trace. Where is he? Lin Chen was startled. His face immediately became incomparably ferocious and he roared. Jiang Haoyan, if you have the guts, come out and fight me fair and square. Whoever wins, Fengling heir will be his, do you dare? Inside the ancient castle, the nether devil flame floated in the air. The black flames kept flickering, looking incomparably demonic. But now it was no longer releasing black smoke. Qin Feiyang placed Fengling heir flat on the ground. Although this woman sometimes made him very angry, he was entrusted by others to do his job. If he did not save her, his conscience would not be able to get over it. As for Lin Chen's provocation, he directly ignored it. Women were not objects. If he truly loved her, he did not have to possess her, but to see her happy. As for deciding victory or defeat in a single battle, it was simply disrespectful to women. No matter what others thought, he, Qin Feiyang, would never use a woman as a bet. As the Wolf King walked around Fenglinger, he seriously commented on her appearance. This supple and tender skin. This beautiful little face. What a hot body. She is indeed a top-grade little beauty. No wonder she usually wears a mask. With this figure, this appearance, who wouldn't have a bad idea? Little Qinzi, are you also a little tempted? Listen to Brother Wolf. It's better to act than to be tempted. A great opportunity is in front of you. Just strip her naked, 100 times, 100 times. How cool is that, right? Wolf King stopped and looked at Qin Feiyang sneakily, egging him on. Qin Feiyang's face twitched. He looked at him strangely and asked, "Who taught you this?" Brother Wolf is talented and intelligent. Do you need others to teach you? Wolf King gave him a disdainful look. All right, stop talking nonsense. Let's think of a way to escape. We can't be trapped here forever. There's also Ling Yunfei and the others. It would be even more troublesome if they were caught. Qin Feiyang looked worried. Wolf King's eyes darkened. He stopped playing at this critical moment and turned to He Lang and growled a few times. He pondered for a while. He Lang growled a few times in response. Wolf King said in a deep voice. He Lang said that the strongest fierce beast within a few hundred miles is that falcon. It seems that there is no way to ask for help. Ask for help? Qin Feiyang laughed at himself and shook his head. Forget it, Zuan is an 8-star combat emperor. Except for Uncle Yuan, no one can help. But we don't know where Uncle Yuan is. Now we can only wake this woman up and ask her if she has any ideas. But once she wakes up, she will know this place. The most important problem is that once she sees me, she may guess your true identity. Wolf King was a little worried. If she knows, then she knows. Qin Feiyang sighed helplessly. He grabbed Fengling heir's jade-like hand and pinched her thumb and index finger. Fengling heir murmured and slowly opened her eyes. Pervert, I'm going to kill you. Suddenly, with a stern shout, she kicked Qin Feiyang with her leg. Qin Feiyang did not expect this to happen. Bang. Unfortunately, he was kicked by Fengling heir and hit the stone wall behind him. He saw stars and spat out a mouthful of blood. Crazy woman, what are you doing? The Wolf King ran in front of Fengling, her blood spurting out of its mouth, and its eyes were filled with a ferocious light. Fengling heir was stunned. She quickly looked around and a trace of doubt appeared in her eyes. 2 wolves. Qin Feiyang? Secret chamber? Where is this? Qin Feiyang got up from the ground and wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth. He said in a deep voice, Good people don't have good karma. I shouldn't have saved you. You saved me? Fengling heir was stunned again. She quickly got up and rubbed the back of her head. She was lost in her memories. Qin Feiyang said, Don't think about it. We are still in the Eagle Claw Peak. Lin Chen has betrayed all of us. I think Ling Yunfei and the others have been captured by Zuan. This damned bastard. I'll skin him alive. Fenglinger was furious and asked in a fluster. Then did he? You only think of asking this now? Qin Feiyang rolled his eyes. What a careless woman. He shook his head and said, Don't worry, he didn't even touch your finger. That's good. Otherwise, I will be disgusted for the rest of my life. Fengling heir breathed a sigh of relief. Do you have the confidence to get rid of him in an instant? Qin Feiyang asked. Fengling heir shook her head and said solemnly, Although his character is not good, His extraordinary talent is one of the best in the whole Yen city. Qin Feiyang impatiently said, Stop, stop. You can just tell me what his cultivation is. Feng Ling'er said, Same as me, a 2-star martial arts grandmaster. Qin Feiyang raised his eyebrows and took out the Chang Shui without hesitation. He said in a deep voice, Take it, I guarantee that your strength will double. Feng Ling'er did not take it. Instead, she looked at it with disdain. Anyone with a discerning eye would be able to tell that this was a dagger that was only for ornamental purposes. Double one's strength? What a daydream. Chapter 119. Qin Feiyang glared and said angrily, There's no time to dawdle, hurry up. Oh. Feng Ling'er instinctively responded and reached out to grab Chang Shui. She only reacted after grabbing Chang Shui. This bastard actually dared to be fierce to her? Moreover, in that moment, she was actually afraid. Seeing that this woman was about to flip out, Qin Feiyang grabbed her arm and appeared outside in the blink of an eye. Feng Ling'er was surprised. Wasn't this too magical? Little bastard die. Lin Chen had been observing the surroundings. When he saw the two of them appear, he immediately pounced towards Qin Feiyang. Feng Ling'er's face turned cold and shouted, Lin Chen, I'll give you another chance. If you escape with us now, I'll let bygones be bygones. Women are so long-winded. Qin Feiyang muttered and quickly took a step back. Lin Chen also turned a deaf ear and continued to pounce towards Qin Feiyang. His face was extremely ferocious. Stubborn. Barbarian elephant fist. Feng Ling'er shouted explosively as she took a step to stand before Qin Feiyang. And then she stretched out her fair hand and clenched her fingers tightly before suddenly smashing out with her fist. It actually faintly carried the roar of a barbaric elephant. Barbarian elephant fist was also a perfect martial arts technique. You pair of dogs, don't even think about leaving today. Return to origin palm. Lin Chen gritted his teeth and slapped towards Feng Ling'er with an astonishing palm wind. Thump. The fist and palm collided, and a violent wind suddenly rose. Both of their bodies shook and they retreated continuously. The white bones under their feet were accompanied by cracking sounds as they continued to shatter. Return to origin palm is also a perfect martial arts technique. It seems that the strength of the two is really similar. Qin Feiyang muttered. Back in Iron Ox Town, Lin Baili had also used the return to origin palm. Therefore he more or less understood. Stinking bitch. Do you have to go against me? Lin Chen roared. Clang. With a wave of his hand, a 3-chi-long sword appeared in the air, gleaming with a frightening sharpness. If I can't have a woman, no one else can either. Die. His face was gloomy as he grabbed the sword in his hand. His genuine chi surged, and the sword shone brightly. Accompanied by a sharp whistle, he slashed at Feng Ling'er. Autumn Light Sword. Feng Ling'er was shocked. She had seen this sword more than once. Its sharp blade was enough to tear apart any martial arts grandmaster's defense. The reason why Lin Chen was able to become one of the best in Swallow City's younger generation was not only because he was an alchemist, it was also because of the Autumn Light Sword in his hand. Countless powerful enemies had been defeated by this sword. The Autumn Light Sword slashed down furiously with a bone-piercing sharpness. She hurriedly brandished the Chang Shui. Clang! As sparks flew everywhere, the Autumn Light Sword that made her feel uneasy was instantly cut in half by Chang Shui. How is this possible? Lin Chen was stunned on the spot. He was dumbfounded. Feng Ling'er was also stunned. She then looked at the broken sword in Lin Chen's hand. Her heart was filled with disbelief. It was actually broken. This dagger was actually not an ornamental item. It could even break the Autumn Light Sword. Such sharpness was unheard of. In an instant, she was full of confidence. While Lin Chen was in a daze, she took a step forward and stabbed the dagger into Lin Chen's right chest. Puff! Immediately, blood spurted out like a fountain. Lin Chen could not help but cry out in pain. However, Qin Feiyang frowned. The heart was basically on the left side of the chest. Just now, Feng Ling'er could totally stab the dagger into Lin Chen's heart and end his life. But in the end, she stabbed the Chang Shui into Lin Chen's right chest. He did not believe that Feng Ling would lose her guard. She must have done it on purpose to let Lin Chen off. Let's go. Feng Ling pulled out the Chang Shui. She turned around and pulled Qin Feiyang, running towards the stone wall. Aren't you afraid of letting the tiger return to the mountain? Qin Feiyang frowned. Feng Ling said without turning her head. He's just possessed now. After we escape, we'll inform the Lin family to save him. What a soft-hearted woman. Qin Feiyang struggled to break free and snatched the Chang Shui. He turned around and rushed towards Lin Chen. His eyes were filled with coldness. Boom. However, at this moment, a terrifying aura descended. Zuan descended from the sky, holding a thumb-thick iron chain in his hand. On the other end of the iron chain, Ling Yunfei and the rest were tied up. They could not move at all. Zuan looked down at Qin Feiyang like a devil descending to the world. He smiled and said, "If you dare to touch him, I'll kill them all." Qin Feiyang's eyes darkened. He stopped and looked at Ling Yunfei and the rest. He frowned and said, "Why didn't you just run away when you knew that the Eagle Claw Peak was strange?" "We did run away, but his speed was too fast. We couldn't escape at all." "Jiang Laoda, what's going on? Why did a devil suddenly appear?" Fatso and the rest were terrified. Qin Feiyang's face was as calm as water. He lowered his head and looked at Lin Chen, who was lying on the side. Whoosh. He rushed forward decisively. The Chang Shui shone with cold light. However, Zuan was like a lightning. In the blink of an eye, he appeared in front of Lin Chen. His face was filled with a sinister smile. His bony hand turned into an eagle's claw and grabbed at Qin Feiyang. Damn it! Qin Feiyang cursed and quickly retreated. He grabbed Feng Ling and was ready to enter the castle. "If you dare to continue to hide, I'll kill him first." Zuan stepped on Fatso's face. His eyes were filled with murderous intent. "Jiang Laoda, I have parents and children to take care of. I can't die. You must save me." Fatso shouted in horror. "You're not married yet. How can you have children?" Ling Yunfei's face darkened. He shouted, "If you're a man, have some backbone. What's there to be afraid of?" He looked at Qin Feiyang with a smile on his face. "I don't have any other wish. I just hope that you can take care of my mother for me after I die." Then, he looked up at Zuan and shouted, "Old thing, bring it on. If I frown, I'm your grandson." "That's more like a man." Feng Ling nodded. She looked down at Lin Chen and shouted, "Did you see that? He's only 15 or 16 years old. He just became a disciple of the Martial Imperial Hall. But he has backbone and faith. He's dozens or hundreds of times stronger than you. Don't you feel ashamed?" Lin Chen grinned. "Backbone and faith are bullshit. Nothing is more important than being alive. Master, quickly kill one of them. If we don't use our full strength, they won't wake up." "That makes sense." Zuan laughed. He pointed his index finger, and a burst of battle chi shot out and entered Chen Ying's glabella. "Ah!" She screamed and died on the spot. There was a thumb-sized hole in her glabella. Blood was gushing out. Fatso and Lu Hong were scared out of their wits. Su Jian's cold face was filled with fear. Only Ling Yunfei stared coldly at Zuan. There was no fear or panic. "Jiang Haotian, right? Summon the nether demonic flame, or he'll be the next to die." Zuan pointed at Su Jian. His eyes were filled with killing intent. Feng Ling panicked and looked helplessly at Qin Feiyang. Qin Feiyang glanced at Fatso and the others. He looked up at Zuan and said, "It's not too late to stop now. You'll die if this matter gets out of hand." "Are you trying to scare me?" Zuan sneered. His eyes were filled with disdain. "Don't think that you can do whatever you want just because you're an 8-star combat emperor. If the Yan County can't do anything to you, there's still the state capital. If the state capital can't do anything, there's still the imperial capital. Let me ask you, no matter how strong you are, can you be stronger than the people from the imperial capital? Can you be stronger than the emperor of the great Qin Empire? In this world, the imperial capital is supreme. You're not allowed to stir up trouble." Qin Feiyang shouted sternly. Zuan's pupils shrunk. If this matter got out of hand, there was no need for the people from the imperial capital. The experts from the state capital were more than enough to crush his body and shatter his bones. But As long as he killed all these people, he wouldn't be able to stir up any trouble. Xuan's eyes were filled with killing intent. He said, "How about this if you return the nether demonic flame to me? Not only will I let you go, but I'll also never refine the blood-killing pill again. How about that?" Qin Feiyang shook his head and said, "No one will believe your words. Why don't you come with us to the Yin City and turn yourself in? I'll return the nether demonic flame to you when we meet the king of Yin." Hee. Xuan grinned. "Kid, you're smart, but smart people usually die early. I'm sorry to tell you that you've worn out my patience." As soon as he finished speaking, a battle chi shot out from his finger and entered Su Jian's glabella. Su Jian died on the spot. However, Qin Feiyang smiled and said, "Go ahead and kill them. In any case, I'm not very familiar with them. Oh right, that Lu Hong and I are still enemies. Hurry up and kill her, so as to avoid being an eyesore. Jiang Haoyan, we're from the same sect. How can you be so heartless?" Lu Hong's face changed and she shouted, "When you tried to harm me, I didn't see you care about your sect." Qin Feiyang smiled disdainfully and looked at Xuan. "Old man, I'll be honest with you. I won't give you the nether demonic flame. As for them, kill them if you want." After that, he led Feng Ling Heir into the castle. "Jiang Laoda, you can't abandon me!" Fatso screamed. Xuan was stunned. He turned to Lin Chen and said angrily, "Didn't you say that they're close to Jiang Haoyan?" Lin Chen was also a little confused. How ridiculous. Ling Yunfei shook his head and said sarcastically, "We've known Jiang Haoyan for less than 3 months. Moreover, people use each other. How can he compromise with you to save us?" Xuan's face darkened. He was at a loss. Inside the castle, Feng Ling Heir stared at the nether demonic flame and suddenly said, "Jiang Haoyan, why don't we just give him the pill fire?" Qin Feiyang said, "Do you think he'll let us go if we give him the pill fire?" Feng Ling Heir said, "Didn't he say so just now?" Qin Feiyang frowned. "What's wrong with you? Can't you tell that he's just trying to appease us? If we really give him the pill fire, he'll kill us without hesitation." It was rare that Feng Ling Heir didn't fly into a rage. She looked at Qin Feiyang helplessly and asked, "What should we do now? We can't just leave them to die, right?" "Don't worry. That old man is also very hesitant now. As long as we don't show up, he won't dare to kill Ling Yunfei and the other two. Because if we kill them, he won't have any chips to threaten us. The most important thing now is to find a way to get in touch with the people outside. Now only the big shots in Yin City can save us." Qin Feiyang sighed. However, the problem was that Xuan was guarding outside. How could they contact the people outside? Chapter 120. How could he break out of this deadlock? Qin Feiyang racked his brains. Suddenly, his eyes lit up as he turned to look at Feng Ling Heir and asked, "Do you have any image crystal?" Feng Ling Heir was also deep in thought. "Heard of it?" She shook her head and said, "No, if I did, I would have already asked for help." "No." Qin Feiyang frowned and asked doubtfully, "Your position in the Martial Imperial Palace is not low. Why don't you even have an image crystal?" "Nonsense. Do you know how expensive the image crystal is? Yen City's treasure pavilion only auctions one every month, and the price of the transaction is at least 5 million gold coins. Even if I sell all my belongings, I won't be able to gather so many gold coins. Moreover, if I really have 5 million gold coins, I might as well use it to buy pills and increase my own strength." Feng Ling Heir said angrily. Long hair, short knowledge. Qin Feiyang despised. The benefits brought about by the image crystal stone were extraordinarily shocking. Take the current situation for example. If he had an image crystal, he would be able to ask for help from the people outside. He wouldn't be trapped here at all. "Your hair is not much shorter than mine." Feng Ling Heir sneered. "Then a certain part of your body should be bigger than mine, right?" Qin Feiyang laughed sinisterly. "Pervert, take this." Feng Ling Heir was startled, but when she saw Qin Feiyang's eyes, she instantly understood. She flew into a rage out of humiliation, and pounced towards him with bared fangs and brandished claws. Qin Feiyang immediately retreated and said, A gentleman uses his mouth, not his fists. Feng Ling laughed sinisterly. I am not a gentleman, I am a woman, this trick is useless against me. Qin Feiyang hurriedly said. Haven't you heard, if you can use your mouth, try not to use your fists? Feng Ling chuckled. Then have you heard, if you can use your fists, try not to use your mouth? Qin Feiyang was both helpless and bitter. This woman was more difficult to deal with than she had imagined. Seeing that Feng Ling was about to pounce on him, Qin Feiyang's eyes lit up. He hurriedly said, Wait, I have an idea. Don't try to change the topic. Feng Ling shouted. Qin Feiyang grabbed her wrist and said in a deep voice, Don't mess around. I really have a solution. Seeing his serious face, Feng Ling frowned and asked, What method? Qin Feiyang leaned over and whispered a few words into her ear. Will this work? After listening, Feng Ling looked doubtful. Qin Feiyang said, Regardless of whether it works or not, we still have to try because this is the only way to escape. All right. Feng Ling nodded. I'll go out first. After Qin Feiyang finished speaking, he instantly disappeared without a trace. Outside. As expected, Zuan did not kill Ling Yunfei and the other two. Seeing Qin Feiyang come out, he laughed sinisterly. Have you thought it through? Then hand over the nether devil flame. Qin Feiyang said disdainfully. You think too much. I just came out to tell you, don't run if you have the guts. Haha. Zuan laughed wildly, as if he had heard the best joke in the world. Is there something wrong with this little bastard's brain? He is an 8-star war emperor. Why would he run? What a joke. Continue to laugh. I'll see how long you can laugh. Qin Feiyang sneered. Seeing his serious expression, Zuan raised his eyebrows and asked, What do you mean? Qin Feiyang shook his head. Nothing, just remember not to run. If you don't say it, I'll kill this fatso. Zuan stretched out his arm and pointed his index finger at Fatso's head. Qin Feiyang said indifferently, Even if you kill him, I won't say it. Fatso cried. Jiang Laoda, you can't be so heartless. For the sake of our night of revelry, please save Fat Lord. That night revelry? Zuan's old face twitched, and his gaze became extremely strange. Haha. Lin Chen suddenly laughed, pointed at Qin Feiyang, and said disdainfully, So you have this kind of hobby, and you even found such a fat pig. Your heavy taste is really scary. Qin Feiyang's face was dark. The night of revelry that Fatso mentioned was actually drinking at Spring Breeze restaurant last night. However, Fatso's words were too ambiguous, so the two mistakenly thought that he and Fatso were gay. Not to mention Lin Chen. Even he felt disgusted when he thought about it. Jiang Laoda. Fatso opened his mouth again, wanting to say something. Shut up. Qin Feiyang roared. The words that came out of this bastard's mouth would definitely have a different meaning. He didn't want this misunderstanding to continue to deepen. Cough cough. Zuan coughed dryly and shouted. Say it quickly. Qin Feiyang said disdainfully. Don't scare me. I will never tell you that we have already informed King Yan and the rest through the image crystal. You have already said it. Lin Chen's eyes were full of ridicule. However, Zuan's face was extremely gloomy. Did you? Qin Feiyang was stunned. After thinking carefully, his face suddenly changed and he hurriedly said, I was talking nonsense, it's not true, because we don't have the image crystal at all. Lin Chen wanted to continue mocking him, but his face suddenly turned pale. Because he had also realized the seriousness of the problem. Informed King Yan and the rest? Didn't that mean that King Yan and the rest were already on their way? Zuan asked. Lin Chen, do they have the image crystal? Lin Chen pondered for a while and said in a deep voice. Jiang Haotian definitely doesn't have it. Feng Ling also didn't have it before, but we can't rule out the possibility that before leaving Yan City, the Martial King Hall Master gave her one to facilitate communication. Zuan stared at Qin Feiyang, his eyes flickering. He really couldn't tell if this was true, or if Qin Feiyang was just scaring him. Qin Feiyang sneered secretly. With a thought, Feng Ling appeared out of thin air. Immediately, Feng Ling pointed at Qin Feiyang's nose and scolded him. What's wrong with you? How could you let such an important thing slip? If they run away, Won't our plan to catch them all in one fell swoop be in vain? Why are you so unreliable? While Feng Ling was scolding him, Qin Feiyang was also anxiously winking at Feng Ling and glancing at Zuan and Lin Chen from time to time. It was as if he was telling Feng Ling to lower her voice and not let them hear her. After Feng Ling finished speaking, she glanced at Zuan and Lin Chen from the corner of her eyes and shouted at Qin Feiyang. What are you doing? Is there something wrong with your eyes? Do you believe that I'll dig them out for you? Oh my God. I did let it slip just now, but I've already told them that we don't have the image crystal, and they almost believed me. But now that you've shouted, we can't hide it anymore, can we? Qin Feiyang looked helpless. Ah! Feng Ling exclaimed and hurriedly turned to look at Zuan and Lin Chen. She waved her hand and said, I was talking nonsense just now. We really don't have the image crystal, don't worry. Yes, we're just talking nonsense. Qin Feiyang nodded repeatedly and pulled Feng Ling into the castle. After entering the castle, both of them laughed sinisterly. Qin Feiyang said, I didn't know that you're so good at acting. Feng Ling was like a proud little princess. Of course, I'm proficient in all kinds of martial arts. Qin Feiyang rolled his eyes. This person really can't stand the compliment. She's so arrogant after being praised. Feng Ling asked, do you think they'll be fooled? They should be. After all, our acting just now was flawless. Qin Feiyang said, and then listened carefully to the movements outside. At this moment, Lin Chen's face was pale and his body and mind were trembling. He looked at Zuan in horror and asked, Master, what should we do now? We'll be dead when Prince Yan and the others arrive. Why are you panicking? Zuan shouted coldly, but his heart was in a mess. Although he was now an 8-star combat emperor, he didn't have much confidence in facing the giants of Yan City, unless he broke through to the 9-star combat emperor, but it was unrealistic in a short period of time. Lin Chen said anxiously, Master, Feng Ling must have the image crystal. Let's go quickly. Let me think about it. Zuan lowered his head and fell into deep thought. This guy came out and said something ruthless. He was so confident that he didn't seem to be lying. Later, he let it slip and immediately denied it. In the end, Feng Ling appeared and scolded him without saying a word. Her expression didn't show any signs of faking it. It seems like it's true. No. Before he stepped into the 9-star combat emperor, he must not fight with Prince Yan and the other 4 old dogs. He looked up at Lin Chen and said in a deep voice, Where there's life, there's hope. Let's retreat first. Good. Lin Chen nodded happily. He was waiting for this moment. Suddenly, he frowned and asked, What about the nether demonic flame? Zuan sneered. Let him keep it for now. I'll get it back sooner or later anyway. What about the 3 of them? Lin Chen looked at Ling Yunfei and the other 2. Zuan glanced at the 3 of them and said, I'm planning to recruit people. The 3 of them have good aptitudes, so I'll keep them as my servants. After saying that, he grabbed Lin Chen with one hand and the iron chain with the other, and flew into the sky. At this moment, Qin Feiyang appeared again with the Chang Shui in his hand. He stomped on the ground and with the help of the force, he jumped more than 10 meters high and came to the side of the iron chain. Then, he waved the Chang Shui in his hand. With a loud clang, the iron chain broke on the spot. Then, he quickly reached out and grabbed the iron chain. In an instant, he disappeared without a trace. Zuan were dumbfounded by the sudden turn of events. How is this possible? This iron chain is made of black meteoric iron. Even I have to use all my strength to break it. But he actually broke it with one slash. Am I dreaming? Zuan looked down at the iron chain in his hand and muttered to himself. His heart was filled with disbelief. All of a sudden, his body shook and his eyes shone brightly. That dagger was definitely a divine weapon. Jiang Haotian, wait for me. I'll definitely go to Yan City to find you, he muttered to himself. Then, with Lin Chen in tow, he soared into the air and quickly rushed out of the inner space. Boom. After a while, on the peak of the mountain, there was a loud noise that shook the sky and the earth. Eagle Claw Peak suddenly shook violently. Cracks like a spider web quickly spread across the entire mountain. This was obviously the sign of a landslide. Chapter 121. Hearing the commotion, Qin Feiyang raised his eyebrows and led Feng Ling-er, Ling Yunfei, and the others out of the castle. When they saw the eagle claw peak about to collapse, their faces suddenly changed. Qin Feiyang waved the Chang Shui, and the iron chains binding Ling Yunfei and the others immediately broke. Hurry up and escape, or we'll all be buried alive, Feng Ling-er said anxiously. Lu Hong asked, where's Chening and Su Jian? They're already dead. Why care about them? Let's go. Feng Ling-er took the lead and ran to the front of the stone wall, preparing to climb up. Qin Feiyang grabbed her shoulder and shook his head. It's too late to climb up. Let's directly blast open a passage. That's right. Feng Ling-er nodded, her jade-like hands clenched into fists, crazily bombarding the stone wall. A passage quickly appeared. Let's go. Qin Feiyang waved his hand and led Ling Yunfei and the others into the passage, following closely behind Feng Ling-er. Qin Feiyang also grabbed the Chang Shui and helped at the side. Fatso roared. It's collapsing faster. Why don't you do it? Feng Ling-er said angrily. I'm not as fast as you. Fatso smiled embarrassedly. Then shut up, don't talk nonsense. Barbarian elephant fist. She roared and used a perfect martial art, blasting all the way down like a hot knife through butter. Every punch could blast a dozen meters deep. A dozen breaths passed. Finally, a hole was blasted open in front. The group hurriedly ran out, looked up, and were scared out of their wits. The entire eagle claw peak was collapsing. Gravel, soil, trees, and weeds turned into a shocking torrent, rolling from above. Hurry, hurry, hurry! Qin Feiyang roared. The 5 people fled outside as if their lives depended on it. They had really used all of their strength to fight. The flood behind them was also chasing after them relentlessly. It was trying to devour them. At this moment, not only were they fleeing, but the ferocious beasts were also fleeing. They were densely packed and their roars shook the heavens. It was a spectacular sight. However, ferocious beasts were constantly swallowed by the torrent and buried alive. Feng Ling-er urged, Fatso Lu Hong, hurry up. Feng Ling-er was a 2-star martial ancestor, so her speed was naturally very fast. Although Qin Feiyang and Ling Yunfei were 5-star martial masters, they both had auxiliary divine abilities. Only Fatso and Lu Hong were the slowest. The torrent was closing in step by step. The situation was not good. Feng Ling-er hurriedly retreated. She grabbed one person in each hand and dragged them along as she ran. Several dozen breaths later, the 5 of them stopped on a small hillside and looked back at the half-collapsed eagle claw peak, their hearts filled with shock. The rumbling sound was like thunder, deafening. The thick dust and smoke covered half of the sky. No one knew how many ferocious beasts would be buried under the soil. It was really thrilling just now. Fatso patted his chest, still in shock. If it were not for Feng Ling-er's help, he would have been buried alive. Hey, why don't I see that falcon? Ling Yunfei was surprised. It should have been subdued by Xuan long ago. Qin Feiyang said, Oh no, we are surrounded by them. Feng Ling-er suddenly exclaimed, her face was ashen. In the surrounding forest, several huge ferocious beasts were closing in on the 5 of them step by step. They were the Black Panther and other ferocious beasts that they had encountered before. Fatso said in horror. What should we do now? Sister-in-law's strength alone is not their opponent at all. Sister-in-law? Qin Feiyang and the others were stunned. Feng Ling-er said angrily, Damn Fatso, if you talk nonsense again, I will seal your mouth. Fatso said with a sad face, Sister-in-law, if you can get rid of them, not to mention sealing my mouth, even if you spank me I don't mind. I mind. Feng Ling-er gritted her teeth and glared at him. Jiang Haoyan, give me that dagger of yours. No need, I have a way. Qin Feiyang said lightly. With a thought, the black wolf appeared. He looked at the black wolf and asked, Brother Wolf, can you ask them to let us go? The black wolf looked up at him, turned to the Black Panther and other ferocious beasts and growled. The Black Panther and other ferocious beasts stopped and growled as if they were talking to the black wolf. A moment later, the black panther and other ferocious beasts gathered together, turned around and ran away, quickly disappearing from their sight. The black wolf also took a step, ready to follow. Qin Feiyang hurriedly said, "Brother Wolf, why don't you be my companion too?" After spending so much time with the Wolf King, he had an inexplicable good impression of wolves. The black wolf turned to look at him, but in the end, it did not stay and ran into the depths of the forest. Sigh. Qin Feiyang sighed, feeling rather disappointed. It seemed that it was not easy to make a ferocious beast follow a person willingly. When he looked at Feng Ling-er and the others, he found that they were looking at him strangely. "What's wrong?" Qin Feiyang was stunned and asked in confusion. Feng Ling-er said, "If I remember correctly, there was a white wolf in the place where we were hiding. Why are you so close to the wolf?" Has she already guessed it? Qin Feiyang's heart skipped a beat. Ling Yunfei also squinted his eyes, which emitted a cold light. He knew Qin Feiyang's true identity, and he knew what it meant if Qin Feiyang's identity was exposed. Therefore, he could only silence him. Noticing the change in Ling Yunfei, Qin Feiyang glanced at him, motioning him not to be impulsive, and then smiled. "Maybe it's because I'm popular with wolves." "Is that so?" Feng Ling-er narrowed her eyes and stared at him. "Then what do you think it is?" Qin Feiyang shrugged. "At this time." Lu Hong frowned and said, "I remember that Qin Feiyang, who is wanted by the royal family, also has a white wolf by his side?" Feng Ling-er's red lips curled up slightly. She pursed her lips into a meaningful smile and nodded. "That's right. Speaking of which, this Qin Feiyang is truly amazing. He's already world-renowned at such a young age. Even in the Swallow City, there's no one who doesn't know his name." "So powerful?" Qin Feiyang was surprised. "Isn't this nonsense? How can a person wanted by the royal family be an ordinary person?" But then again, it is said that Qin Feiyang is only 15 or 16 years old, about the same age as Jiang Laoda. He also has a white wolf by his side. Coincidentally, this Qin Feiyang appeared in Black Bear City at the same time as you, Jiang Laoda. Moreover, Jiang Laoda, you have always been very mysterious, and your origin is unknown. Could it be that you are Qin Feiyang in disguise? Fatso followed his train of thought and slowly pondered this conclusion. As soon as his voice faded, everyone looked at Qin Feiyang in bewilderment. Ling Yunfei was naturally pretending. "Damn, Fatso, what are you blindly thinking about?" Qin Feiyang secretly cursed, but although Fatso was timid, his mind was really not simple. "How can I be Qin Feiyang? If it was true, I wouldn't have saved you in the Eagle Claw Peak. As for the white wolf, the world is so big and there are so many strange things. Qin Feiyang is not the only one who can be friends with a wolf," Qin Feiyang said with a calm smile. Fatso nodded and said, "It seems to make sense. Then why did you hide the white wolf?" Qin Feiyang said, "Nonsense, Qin Feiyang is wanted by the royal family. If I don't hide it, I don't know how many people will mistake me for Qin Feiyang like you. At that time, even if I have 10 mouths, I can't explain it clearly." "Boss Jiang, don't say that you're not Qin Feiyang. Even if you are, Grandpa Fatty will continue to worship you," Fatso said with a smile. "Don't flatter me. I'm not a vain person, I won't fall for it." Qin Feiyang rolled his eyes at him. Feng Ling-er stared at Qin Feiyang. Her eyes flashed and said with a smile, "Okay, let's find a place to rest for the night. We will set off for Yin City tomorrow morning." The 5 of them walked side by side in the jungle. Qin Feiyang also secretly breathed a sigh of relief. No matter what, he finally fooled them. Half an hour later, they came to a lake. Ling Yunfei dived into the lake, caught 2 big fish and grilled them. After a simple meal, Fatso, Lu Hong, and Feng Ling-er took a healing pill, sat cross-legged beside the fire, and closed their eyes to rest. Qin Feiyang walked to the riverside dozens of meters away, sat on a stone, and looked at the calm lake without saying a word. "What are you thinking about?" Ling Yunfei walked over, sat beside him, and asked. Qin Feiyang sighed. "I'm thinking about Uncle Yuan. I don't know where he is now and if he's okay." "Uncle Yuan?" Ling Yunfei was puzzled. Qin Feiyang said with a smile. "He is a very kind and amiable old man. For the past 5 years, He has taken care of me meticulously. In this world, other than my mother, the only one I care about is him. Ling Yunfei comforted. Good people will be rewarded. Yes, he is a good person. Qin Feiyang nodded. What about your father? Why haven't I heard you mention him? Ling Yunfei asked. Crack. Qin Feiyang's hands suddenly clenched. His dark eyes turned blood red in an instant. It was full of hatred and pain. There was even a hint of killing intent. What's wrong? Ling Yunfei was shocked. At this moment, Qin Feiyang seemed to be possessed by an azura in his eyes, and the murderous aura emitted from his body was extremely shocking. In the future, don't mention my father in front of me. Otherwise, even if it's you, I won't be polite. Qin Feiyang said word by word, and his words were cold and piercing to the bone. After saying that, the bloody light in his eyes quickly receded. After a while, it returned to its previous appearance. Yes. Ling Yunfei nodded, but in his heart he was very surprised. Chapter 122. What are you guys whispering about? Feng Ling-er's voice suddenly came from behind. Qin Feiyang raised his eyebrows and turned around, only to see Feng Ling-er getting up and walking towards them. Ling Yunfei said in a low voice, "This woman is very scheming. She's not as easy to fool as Lu Hong and Fatso. You must be careful." Qin Feiyang said, "Fatso is not that easy to fool. He's probably just pretending." There was a trace of disdain in Ling Yunfei's eyes. "You haven't spent much time with him, so you don't know him. Although he's timid, he's not stupid. In short, don't underestimate him," Qin Feiyang warned. Ling Yunfei's pupils contracted. Since Qin Feiyang gave him such a high evaluation, it seemed that he had to pay attention to Fatso in the future. Feng Ling-er came to the two. Ling Yunfei got up and said respectfully, "Senior Sister Ling, I thought you were ugly, so I covered your face with a mask, but I didn't expect you to be so beautiful. It's amazing." Feng Ling-er's face was cold. "Don't flatter me. You knew Jiang Haoyan's true identity, but you colluded with him and deceived him. This is a serious crime, do you understand?" "What do you mean?" "Why can't I understand?" Ling Yunfei's heart skipped a beat, and he looked puzzled. "Still pretending? Don't think I didn't notice the killing intent you showed when we guessed that Jiang Haoyan was Qin Feiyang." Feng Ling-er sneered. Qin Feiyang got up and looked at her. "What do you want?" Since he couldn't hide it, there was no need to continue pretending. Feng Ling-er shook her head and said, "If I wanted to do anything, I would have already done it to you. Don't worry, I will pretend that I don't know anything about this matter." It was not because of how charming Qin Feiyang was. It was because Qin Feiyang had saved her in the Eagle Claw Peak. Otherwise, she would have already been violated by Lin Chen and lost her virginity. To a woman, nothing was more important than this. Qin Feiyang and Li Mu, who did not know the reason, were astonished. However, now that Feng Ling-er had agreed to keep it a secret, they could finally breathe a sigh of relief. Qin Feiyang asked, "Miss Ling, have you heard of a person named Lin Yi in Yen City?" "Lin Yi?" Feng Ling-er pondered for a moment and nodded. "Yes, it is said that she is from a branch of the Lin family. Lin Han is preparing to adopt her as his daughter. There are also rumors that when she turns 16, she will be officially married to the royal family. Why are you suddenly asking about her? Do you know her?" Feng Ling-er was puzzled. Qin Feiyang nodded with a firm light in his eyes. No matter what, he must rescue Lin Yi. This was a promise. It was the love of a brother to his sister. Feng Ling-er asked curiously, "Qin Feiyang, how did you become enemies with the king of Yen?" "I didn't become enemies with the king of Yen." Qin Feiyang shook his head. "Then why is he looking for you?" Feng Ling-er frowned. Qin Feiyang said, "I became enemies with the Lin family of Yen City. When I was in Iron Bull Town, Lin Yi's hometown, I killed Lin Han's youngest son, Lin Bailey." "What?" Feng Ling-er and Ling Yunfei looked at each other. Their eyes were full of disbelief. He even dared to kill the people of the Lin family of Yen City. Isn't this bastard too timid? Tell me about it. Feng Ling-er suddenly became interested. Qin Feiyang frowned and said, "Why are you so gossipy?" Feng Ling snorted coldly and threatened, "If you don't say it, I will announce your true identity." Qin Feiyang was helpless. He briefly recounted what had happened in Iron Ox Town, but he did not mention the relationship with Luo Qingzhu and her daughter, as well as Zhao Shuang'er and Uncle Yuan. After listening, Feng Ling suddenly realized and said angrily, "This Lin family is really too much. Do they think that they can cover the sky in the county of Yan, just because they are close to the royal family? I can't stand such pretentious people the most. It can't be helped. This is the way of the world. People with power and influence are not afraid of anything. It is difficult for people without money and influence to keep their dignity as a human being." Qin Feiyang shook his head and sneered. Ling Yunfei said, "But the person who suffered the most in this incident is Lin Yi's father. Not only did he not get any benefits, but he also lost a daughter." Qin Feiyang said, "He is trapped in a cocoon of his own making." He had no sympathy for Lin Chang at all, because this person was not worthy of sympathy at all. Feng Ling said, "So your biggest purpose of going to Yan City is to save Lin Yi?" "Sort of." Qin Feiyang smiled faintly. Only he knew that his real purpose was to go home. Also, he wanted to uproot the Lin family of Yan City. Feng Ling shook her head and said, "I'm afraid this is difficult. The Lin family of Yan City has the royal family behind them. In addition, the Lin family itself has the War Emperor. Even the Danwang Hall, Martial Emperor Hall, and Treasure Pavilion have to be polite to the Lin family. With your strength alone, the hope is slim." Qin Feiyang said, "Let's talk about it after we go to Yan City." Feng Ling suddenly said, "I have an idea." "What idea?" Qin Feiyang and the other man looked at her suspiciously. Feng Ling joked, "You can propose marriage to Lin Yi first. With your alchemy talent, the Lin family will probably agree without hesitation." "Good idea. A person who can refine the best quality medicinal pill, as long as he doesn't die prematurely, his future value will definitely far exceed that of the royal family. The Lin family can't wait to curry favor with you." Ling Yunfei nodded in agreement. In his heart, he was actually bitter. In the beginning, Qin Feiyang said that he wanted to refine the scarlet-colored glass pill by himself. Not only did he not believe it, but he also ridiculed him. Later, the news that Qin Feiyang refined the best quality medicinal pill quickly spread in Black Bear City. When he heard the news, he was dumbfounded on the spot. This guy is too heaven-defying. He is completely inhuman. This method won't work. Qin Feiyang shook his head. If this was the case, he could have eloped with Lin Yi in the beginning. Why bother? He only regarded Lin Yi as a sister, and there was no affection between men and women. He couldn't do such a thing as proposing marriage. Boom. All of a sudden, an earth-shattering explosion could be heard from a place far away. The three looked at each other, and hurriedly looked over. Fatso and Lu Hong were also awakened and quickly ran toward Qin Feiyang, and the other two. "What happened?" Fatso asked. "We don't know." Qin Feiyang shook his head. The sound came from the direction of Black Bear City. Ling Yunfei had a suspicious look on his face. "Did something happen in Black Bear City? Do you want to go back and take a look?" Feng Ling asked. "Let's go and take a look." Qin Feiyang thought for a while and nodded. The group of 5 immediately turned back and ran wildly in the jungle. After 2 hours, the west gate of Black Bear City finally came into their sight. As soon as they saw the city gate, they felt uneasy. Usually, there were only 2 people guarding the city gate, but at this moment, there were more than a dozen figures. There was usually no one on the city wall. But now there was a sentry every 3 steps and a sentry every 7 steps. It was stricter than when Qin Feiyang was sealed. At this time, the sky was dark, and the full moon was in the sky. The hazy moonlight spread down, and the mountains and rivers seemed to be covered with a layer of silver coat. "Who is it?" Seeing someone running over, the people guarding the city gate suddenly shouted, pulled out their swords, and became vigilant. "It's me, Jiang Haotian," Qin Feiyang said loudly. "Jiang Haotian." Those people looked at each other, and their eyes were full of doubts. After a few people ran closer, it was indeed Jiang Haotian and others. A middle-aged man greeted them. It was Gu Ba. He asked. Didn't you go to Yen City? Why did you come back? Qin Feiyang asked in bewilderment. Elder Gu, why are you personally standing guard here? Gu Ba said in a deep voice. 2 hours ago, our pill hall was attacked, and the alchemy fire was stolen. What? Qin Feiyang and the others looked at each other, and their eyes were full of shock. Someone dared to come and steal the alchemy fire of the pill hall? Who was so daring? That person came and went without a trace. We didn't even see his face. And, speaking of this, Gu Ba looked at Feng Ling Er and stopped talking. Feng Ling Er frowned. Elder Gu, what do you want to say? Gu Ba gritted his teeth and said in a deep voice, your grandfather was also taken away. How did this happen? Feng Ling Er's face suddenly changed. We don't know either. Gu Ba shook his head. Snatched the alchemy fire. Snatched Elder Feng. Qin Feiyang muttered to himself, and his mind was thinking quickly. Suddenly his eyes trembled and he said in surprise, could it be Zuaren? Fatso said in a deep voice. You and Fat Lord are thinking the same thing, it must be him. Not good. Ling Yunfei's face suddenly changed. He looked at Gu Ba and asked, what about my mother? Gu Ba said, I don't know about your mother, but she should be fine, because the martial arts hall didn't release any news about anyone being taken away. No, I have to go to the martial arts hall to take a look. I'll look for you later. Ling Yunfei said to Qin Feiyang and the others, and ran into the city without looking back. Qin Feiyang looked at Feng Ling Er, patted her shoulder and comforted her. Don't worry, the nether devil flame is still in our hands. Zuan won't do anything to your grandfather for now. Feng Ling Er nodded, and tears fell like rain. Qin Feiyang asked, Elder Gu, where is the hall master? Gu Ba said, they are all in the conference hall. Qin Feiyang said, let's go to the pill hall. The 4 of them entered the city, and ran towards the pill hall. Dozens of breaths later, they ran into the conference hall with ease. Luo Xiong, Elder Mo, the martial arts hall master, the precious treasure pavilion master, and the Jiang clan head were sitting in the conference hall, discussing something. The atmosphere was very heavy. Seeing Qin Feiyang and the others suddenly running in, they were stunned at first, and then quickly stood up to welcome them. Luo Xiong asked, why are you back? Qin Feiyang didn't beat around the bush, and said directly, Hall Master, we know who took away the alchemy fire and Elder Feng. Who? Luo Xiong said. Zuan Linchen. Qin Feiyang said word by word. Linchen? How could it be him? Luo Xiong's eyes were filled with disbelief. Jiang clan head frowned and said, who is Zuaren? Elder Mo said in a deep voice, 8 years ago, there was an alchemist who risked universal condemnation to refine the blood spirit elixir, and was killed by King Yen outside the Yen city. This alchemist was Zuan. Chapter 123. He is not dead. Qin Feiyang said coldly, he has been hiding in the Eagle Claw Peak for the past 8 years, refining the blood demon pill. He is now an 8-star combat emperor. What? 8-star combat emperor? Luo Xiong and the others were shocked. What the hell is going on? Hurry up and tell us everything. The martial arts hall master said. However, Qin Feiyang frowned. If he said it, would Luo Xiong take the opportunity to ask him to hand over the nether devil flame? This matter can't be hidden, it's better to tell the truth. After pondering for a while, Qin Feiyang murmured and told the story of the Eagle Claw Peak in detail. There is such a thing. Damn it. Ling Er, you are so silly. How could you bring them to such a dangerous place? I will inform the Grand Hall Master immediately. I will go too. The 3 of them were furious and left in a hurry. Zuan, the devil, was not dead. This was a big matter and could not be neglected. I want to be alone. Feng Ling said as she turned around and walked out of the hall. Her frail figure looked particularly miserable. Qin Feiyang pondered for a while and followed her. The 2 of them walked into a pavilion, one in front of the other. Feng Ling sat on a stone bench. Tears gushed out and her face was full of self-blame. Qin Feiyang sighed, and did not know how to comfort her. The current situation could be said to have been caused by Feng Linger. If If she did not bring everyone to the Eagle Claw Peak, nothing would have happened. If she had killed Lin Chen, Elder Feng would not have been taken away, because it was obvious that Lin Chen must have told Zuan that Feng Cheng was Feng Ling-er's grandfather. That was why Zuan took him away. This was the consequence of being soft-hearted. Suddenly, Feng Ling-er turned and threw herself into Qin Feiyang's arms and cried bitterly. Qin Feiyang didn't know what to do. In the end, he reached out his hand and patted her back. "Don't worry. Nothing will happen," Feng Ling-er said. "Zuan is a devil. He's vicious and merciless. How can I not worry about him?" Qin Feiyang sighed. "Things have already come to this point. It's useless for you to worry. I really hate myself. Why didn't I just kill Lin Chen?" Feng Ling-er blamed herself. "There will be opportunities in the future." Qin Feiyang smiled. Da-da. Along with the sound of footsteps, Ling Yunfei and Fatso ran over. Seeing the two hugging each other, they immediately turned their heads with an awkward expression. Feng Ling-er's cheeks turned red. She quickly stood up and wiped her tears. She lowered her head and said, "I feel much better. Thank you." Qin Feiyang smiled and turned to Ling Yunfei. He asked, "How is your mother?" Ling Yunfei nodded and said worriedly, "But now I don't feel at ease. I let her continue to stay in Black Bear City." Qin Feiyang nodded. "That's true. If Zuan finds out about your relationship with her, he will definitely do something to her. But Zuan is very resourceful. Unless you bring your mother to the Martial King Hall, no matter where she goes, it's not safe." Ling Yunfei's heart sank. He said, "When the Chief Hall Master comes, I will plead with him. I hope he will agree." "The martial arts Chief Hall Master is coming?" Qin Feiyang was shocked. After such a big incident, he should come. Ling Yunfei frowned. He wasn't sure. "So you are here. At this moment?" Lu Hong ran over and said, "The Hall Master wants you to go over." "Let's go," Qin Feiyang said. The group quickly returned to the conference hall. Patriarch Jiang had also left. In the hall, only Luo Xiong and Elder Mo were left. Qin Feiyang asked, "Hall Master, is there anything you need from us?" Luo Xiong said, "The Chief Hall Master wants you to go to Yen City immediately. Ling Yunfei, you too." "Why?" Feng Ling-er asked. Luo Xiong said, "Because the Chief Hall Master is worried that Zuan may come back. At that time, none of you will be able to escape. As for your grandfather, the Chief Hall Master said that he will not sit back and do nothing." Qin Feiyang frowned. "What about Zuan? Are we going to let him go?" Luo Xiong smiled. "Of course not, but Zuan is an 8-star combat emperor. Even if the Chief Hall Master comes to Black Bear City, he may not be able to find him, so they plan to wait for him. After all, you took his alchemy fire. He will come to you sooner or later." Qin Feiyang said angrily, "Why didn't they report this to the state capital?" "The state capital?" Luo Xiong's pupils shrunk. He shook his head and said, "They have their own ideas. We are insignificant people and have no right to interfere. We just need to do as they say." Qin Feiyang raised his eyebrows. But then he sighed helplessly. There was a saying that the emperor was far away from the sky. Although the imperial power controlled everything, it only controlled the overall situation. Even the imperial power could not control some small things in the local area. "Let's go." Luo Xiong got up and said, "I will escort you to Yen City. Elder Mo, when I am not here, you will be in charge of everything in the hall." "Yes." Elder Mo nodded. Ling Yunfei hurriedly asked, "What about my mother?" Luo Xiong smiled. "Don't worry. We have already released fake news that your mother has been sent to Yen City. As long as she does not appear in front of others, Zuan will not come to Black Bear City even if he finds out about your relationship with her." Qin Feiyang nodded and said, "This move of throwing a brick to attract jade and deceiving everyone is a good idea." On the surface, Ling Yunfei's mother had gone to Yen City. But in fact, she was still in the martial arts hall. In the future, if Zuan wanted to kidnap her, he would have to go to Yen City. Speaking of which, this was also a bait. Fatso patted Ling Yunfei's shoulder and said with a smile, "Brother, as long as we don't say anything, no one else will know about this. You should be relieved now, right? Ling Yunfei nodded. A smile finally appeared on his face. The five of them followed Luo Xiong out of the conference hall. Luo Xiong stood at the door. He put his finger to his mouth and blew a loud whistle that spread into the distance. Chirp. Not long after, accompanied by a high-pitched chirp, a big black bird flapped its huge wings and flew across the sky. It was an eagle. Its wingspan was more than 10 meters, but there was no fierce aura around it. This was because this kind of eagle was specially bred for transportation. It was very dependent on humans. The eagle landed on the ground. Luo Xiong walked over and said with a smile, "Old friend, I'll have to trouble you again." Chirp. The eagle chirped softly and rubbed Luo Xiong's face with its huge beak. It looked very docile. "Let's go." Luo Xiong patted the eagle's head. He turned around and called out to Qin Feiyang and the others. Then he jumped up and landed on the eagle's back. Fat Lord has never been treated like this before. Fatso ran over and jumped on the eagle's back. He touched the soft feathers excitedly. After Qin Feiyang and the others got on, the eagle let out a sharp chirp and soared into the sky. Riding on the eagle, they soared into the sky. Ling Yunfei and Lu Hong were also very excited. Fatso was even more excited. Only Qin Feiyang and Feng Ling were normal. Qin Feiyang looked at Lu Hong in front of him. His eyes flickered. Suddenly he leaned over and whispered in her ear, "There's something I want to tell you." "What is it?" Lu Hong was puzzled. The two of them were next to each other. As long as they were not too loud, Luo Xiong, who was standing at the front, would not hear them. Qin Feiyang said, "You were there at the Eagle Claw Peak. Zuan will definitely not let you go. I believe you should know this." Lu Hong nodded. Qin Feiyang sighed. "I'm really worried that others will mistake me for Qin Feiyang. So as long as you don't tell anyone about the White Wolf, we will be friends in the future. We will support and help each other. What do you think?" "Really?" Lu Hong's eyes lit up. This person's future was limitless. If she could really become friends with him, she would definitely get a lot of benefits in the future. Qin Feiyang said with a smile, "Of course." Lu Hong said, "Okay, I will definitely keep this secret." In fact, these days, she had been thinking about how to bury the hatchet with this person. Now the opportunity had come to her. Naturally, she could not miss it. Moreover, it was this person who saved her at the Eagle Claw Peak. Even if there were no additional conditions, she should help him. Lu Hong said again, "If I don't tell, what about them?" Qin Feiyang said with a smile, "In addition to Fatso, I have already told Ling Yunfei and Feng Ling. Lu Hong was shocked. Ling Yunfei had a good relationship with this person. It was normal for him to help keep the secret. But Feng Ling was a proud daughter of heaven. Why would she help this person? At this time, Fatso came over and said with a smile, "When did you become so intimate? Aren't you afraid that sister-in-law will be jealous?" Lu Hong blushed and quickly lowered her head. "Don't talk nonsense." Qin Feiyang rolled his eyes at him. He pulled Fatso to his side and muttered a few words in his ear. When the fatty heard that, a glint flashed through his squinted eyes. He raised his head, looked at Qin Feiyang, and said in dissatisfaction, "Am I the kind of person who likes to gossip?" Qin Feiyang smiled and patted Fatso's shoulder. He did not say anything else. He could already conclude that this damn Fatso definitely knew his true identity. It was just that he did not point it out. Time flew. In the middle of the night, a magnificent ancient city entered their line of sight. The ancient city covered hundreds of miles, and was extremely huge. Layers of halls rose and fell. They were arranged in picturesque disorder, and had an extraordinary aura. The four walls were like giant pythons, shining with a cold luster. An ancient aura rushed over and attacked everyone's vision. "That's Yen City." Fatso gripped his fists tightly, and his eyes shone brightly. Under the hazy moonlight, the city was like a wild ferocious beast lying on the ground, shocking everyone's hearts. Luo Xiong warned, "You guys have to remember that Yen City is the capital of Yen County. Therefore, flying with beasts is absolutely forbidden here." With that said, he stepped on the ground gently and the eagle swooped down, landing on the plains in front of the city gates. The plains were dead silent in the middle of the night. The few of them jumped down from the eagle's back one after another. Luo Xiong patted the eagle on the shoulder and smiled. Old friend, go look for food in the nearby mountains first. Screech. The eagle spread its wings and soared into the skies. Follow me. Luo Xiong called out and turned towards the city gates. In Yen City, apart from flying with beasts, you can't fight in private, and even more so, you can't kill anyone. Ling Yunfei asked, what if someone provokes you again and again? Luo Xiong said, there's a martial arts arena in the city. You can fight however you want, but you have to have the ability to do so. If you're short of money, you can also go to the martial arts arena. What do you mean? Qin Feiyang and the others were stunned. Luo Xiong smiled. You'll know when you get there. Soon. The group arrived in front of the city gates. 2 bold and powerful words were engraved on the city gates, releasing an astonishing aura. Yen City. Hall Master Luo, please stop for inspection. There were 2 guards in front of the city gates. They wore black armor and iron helmets, each holding a 3-feet-long spear in their hands. They looked at the few of them expressionlessly with cold eyes. Feng Lingair shouted, what's there to check? Get out of here. One of the guards said, Miss Ling, we're just doing our job. Please forgive us. The other guard said, after knowing that the Devil's Warren is not dead, King Yen immediately ordered that from now on, anyone who enters Yen City will be strictly interrogated. It's only right. Luo Xiong smiled. One of the guards took out a strange stone. It was shaped like an eye and was the size of a palm. It was simple and unadorned and looked extremely ordinary. But when he saw this stone, Qin Feiyang's heart trembled. Chapter 124. The Heaven's Eye Stone was a very magical stone. Once touched, all illusions would have nowhere to hide. For example, Qin Feiyang. If he touched the Heaven's Eye Stone, he would immediately return to his original appearance. In other words, at this moment, he was facing the crisis of his identity being exposed. What should I do? Qin Feiyang's thoughts were running fast. If his identity was exposed here, unless he hid in the castle for the rest of his life, he would die. At the same time, Feng Lingair and Ling Yunfei glanced at Qin Feiyang secretly, their hearts full of worry. Fatso's eyes were also flickering. Only Lu Hong and Luo Xiong did not have any abnormalities. The black-armored guard said, I believe you should all know that this is the Heaven's Eye Stone. Put your hands on it one by one. Luo Xiong was the first to walk up and put his hand on it. 3 breaths passed. The Heaven's Eye Stone did not respond. The black-armored guard said with a smile, Hall Master Luo, please forgive me for offending you just now. You can now enter the city. This is how it should be in times of emergency. Luo Xiong smiled and stepped aside. He looked at Qin Feiyang and the others and said, hurry up, don't waste time here. Ling Yunfei, Fatso, and Lu Hong were checked one after another. The Heaven's Eye Stone did not show any abnormalities. What should we do? Qin Feiyang stood aside, looking calm on the surface, but he was anxious in his heart. Feng Lingair did not move for a long time, thinking of a way. Luo Xiong urged, Linger Haotian, hurry up. Feng Lingair stepped forward and looked up at the black-armored guard, her eyes full of anger. The black-armored guard said, Miss Linger, please cooperate. Xuan is an old man. He can change his appearance, but he can't become a woman, right? Feng Lingair said angrily. The black-armored guard nodded and said, you're right. Gender can't be changed, but we can't rule out that there are women among his subordinates. Feng Lingair said, you mean I'm his subordinate? The black-armored guard waved his hand and said, no. I'm saying that his subordinates might disguise themselves as you. Preposterous. Feng Lingair was mad with anger. She waved her jade-like hand and slapped the Heaven's Eye Stone away. It hit the city wall and shattered on the spot. Feng Lingair, you are defying the law. The black-armored guard shouted furiously. You're insulting me. Feng Lingair also shouted. Qin Feiyang secretly heaved a sigh of relief. Without the Heaven's Eye Stone, he didn't need to be inspected anymore. It was all thanks to this woman. His expression turned serious, and he was about to go up and persuade him. However, another black-armored guard suddenly said, "Don't argue with her. I still have a Heaven's Eye stone here." After saying that, he really took out a Heaven's Eye stone. Qin Feiyang's footsteps froze. His heart, which had just calmed down, was once again in his throat. The black-armored guard grabbed the Heaven's Eye stone and looked at Feng Ling Er. He said in a deep voice, "I'm warning you. Don't destroy this Heaven's Eye stone again. Otherwise, I'll have to take you to the King of Yen." Crack. However, before he could finish his words, Feng Ling Er waved her hand and shattered the Heaven's Eye stone. "Come on, I'm just about to meet the King of Yen. I want to ask him. My grandfather is a citizen of the county of Yen and an elder of the Pill Hall. Now that Zuan has kidnapped my grandfather, as the king of the county of Yen, why hasn't he come to rescue him?" Feng Ling Er shouted angrily. Tears flowed down her cheeks. She looked extremely miserable. Qin Feiyang hurried forward and comforted her. "Don't cry. Your grandfather will be fine." Luo Xiong also hurried over and said to the two black-armored guards, "Ling Er's grandfather has been kidnapped. We don't know if he's dead or alive. It's inevitable for her to be emotional. Please forgive her." The two black-armored guards looked at each other and frowned slightly. Tap tap. At this moment, steady and powerful footsteps could be heard coming from the city. It came from afar. After a while, a middle-aged man walked out from the city gate. He was about 1.8 meters tall and wore a purple gold robe. He had a square face and a majestic aura. "It's him." Qin Feiyang clenched his fists tightly. The man was Lin Han. "Greetings, Patriarch Lin." The two black-armored guards bowed and greeted him. Luo Xiong also cupped his fists and said, "Long time no see, Patriarch Lin. How have you been?" "Luo Xiong?" Lin Han was surprised and said, "I didn't expect you to send them here personally." Luo Xiong smiled and said, "They're all future stars. Nothing can happen to them." Lin Han glanced at Qin Feiyang and the others and nodded. "They're all good. Greetings, Lord Lin." Ling Yunfei and the others bowed. However, Qin Feiyang didn't. Feng Ling Er didn't either. Lin Han glanced at Qin Feiyang and turned to Luo Xiong. "Since you've sent them here, you can go back. I'll send them to the Martial Imperial Hall and Danwang Hall." "No, they don't come with good intentions." Qin Feiyang's heart trembled. He cupped his fists and said, "We're flattered that Patriarch Lin personally came to welcome us in the middle of the night." In fact, he was reminding Luo Xiong. There were so many people in the Lin family. Why would Lin Han, the patriarch of the family, come in person? And in the middle of the night? He could have sent someone else. Therefore, his motive was not pure. The people present weren't stupid. After being reminded by Qin Feiyang, they all became vigilant. Luo Xiong was also shocked. He smiled and said, "Patriarch Lin, you're of noble status. How could I trouble you to send them personally? Let me do it." Lin Han glanced at Qin Feiyang again, a cold glint in his eyes as he said, "Such a big thing happened in Black Bear City. There must be a lot of things that need to be dealt with. Don't waste your time on them. Go back. Don't tell me you still don't trust me." "That's not it. It's mainly because the alchemy fire was stolen. A pill hall without alchemy fire is not a pill hall. I came to Yen City for 2 reasons. First, to escort them. Second, to ask the Grand Hall Master to give me alchemy fire. I'm going to the Danwang Hall anyway. I won't trouble you." Luo Xiong smiled and said politely, "I'll tell the Grand Hall Master about the alchemy fire. Please go back." Lin Han's tone became a little harsh. Obviously, he had lost his patience. Since when did the Lin family have the right to interfere with the matters of the Danwang Hall? You're meddling in the matters of the Martial Imperial Hall. You're meddling too much. At this moment, 2 hoarse voices with a trace of coldness could be heard. Whoosh! 2 white-haired old men quickly flew out of the city and stopped in front of Lin Han. "Elder Wan." Feng Ling Er immediately ran to the old man on the left. Her face was full of grievances. Elder Wan smiled and said, "Ling Er, I already know about your grandfather's situation. Don't worry, we'll find a way to save him." "Okay." Feng Ling Er nodded. She pointed at the 2 black-armored guards and said angrily, Just now they actually suspected that I'm Zhuan's lackey. This is an insult to my character. Elder Wan, you have to uphold justice for me. What? Elder Wan stared at the two guards and shouted. How dare you slander the core disciples of the Martial Imperial Hall? Do you want to die? Elder Wan, this is a misunderstanding. Yes, we just want to confirm Miss Ling Er's identity. We don't mean anything else. The two black-armored guards hurriedly explained. Don't you know that her grandfather has been kidnapped by Zhuan? What you're doing is no different from adding fuel to the fire. If it was me, I would have killed all of you on the spot. Elder One shouted. The guard nodded and said, Yes, we're wrong. But this is King Yan's order. Before he could finish, Elder One sneered and said, Don't use King Yan to pressure me. The royal family has no right to interfere with the disciples of the Martial Imperial Hall. The two black-armored guards looked at each other helplessly. They took 2 steps back and lowered their heads. Seeing this scene, Qin Feiyang was shocked. It seemed that Feng Ling Er's position in the Martial Imperial Hall was not ordinary. Luo Xiong heaved a sigh of relief and went forward with a smile. Old Wan, old he, your old friend is here. Why didn't you say hello? Have you forgotten about me? Haha. How dare we forget about you? Old friend, when we're done, let's go and have a few drinks. The two of them laughed. It was obvious that the three of them had a good relationship. I don't have time to drink with you now. Luo Xiong shook his head and sighed deeply. He waved at Qin Feiyang and the others and said, Come over here. Let me introduce you. Qin Feiyang and the others immediately ran over. After Luo Xiong's introduction, they then found out that Elder Wan was the enforcement elder of the Martial Imperial Hall. He was the enforcement elder of the Danwang Hall. The enforcement elder's position was second only to the 2 Grand Hall Masters. They had absolute power. For example, Feng Chung and Elder Mo were the enforcement elders of the Black Bear City's Pill Hall. Their positions were much higher than the enforcement elders. Of course, Feng Chung and Elder Mo's strength could not be compared to these two. Even though Luo Xiong was very familiar with the two of them, the difference in their cultivation was like heaven and earth. They were on completely different levels. It could be said that in the entire county of Yan, these two were the most important people. They did not dare to neglect such important people. They quickly bowed. Not bad. All of you are good seedlings. Elder One glanced at them and smiled with satisfaction. Elder He nodded. He looked at Qin Feiyang and asked, Jiang Haoyan, I heard that you can refine supreme-grade pills? Hearing this, Elder Wan, Lin Han and the 2 black-armored guards looked at Qin Feiyang. He's the center of attention again. Ling Yunfei and Fatso looked at each other and shook their heads helplessly. There was really no comparison between people. Qin Feiyang glanced at them and scratched his head. He looked at Elder He and said with an embarrassed smile, If this disciple says no, will Elder beat me up? Elder He was stunned. He then shook his head and laughed. This kid was quite interesting. His face turned cold and said, If you can't, I won't beat you up. But I will kill you. Ah! Qin Feiyang exclaimed and nodded. If that's the case, I'll admit it. I can refine supreme-grade pills. Well done. Fat Lord gives you full marks. Fatso chuckled. Elder He's face darkened and said, Kid, it's a good thing that you can refine supreme-grade pills. Why do you look so unwilling? I want to keep a low profile. Qin Feiyang looked helpless. Low profile? Chapter 125. Elder He said, Let's not waste any more time. Let's go to the Danwang Hall. After taking a few steps, he suddenly stopped and turned to look at Lin Han. He sneered, Since you care so much about our disciple, do you want to go to the Danwang Hall and have a cup of tea with me? Humph. Lin Han snorted and took the lead to enter the city gate, disappearing at the end of the street. What a hypocrite. Elder He and Elder One looked at each other with a hint of mockery in their eyes. They walked into the city side by side. Qin Feiyang and the others quickly followed. Seeing this, the 2 black-armored guards wanted to say something but stopped. They wanted to say that Jiang Haoyan had not been checked yet. But when they thought of Elder Wan and Elder He's attitude, they did not dare to say it. The two thought about it and gave up. After all, not everyone could refine a superior-grade medicinal pill. There should be no problem with this person's identity. It was rare for old friends to meet, so they naturally had a lot to talk about. Therefore, Luo Xiong, Elder Wan, an elder he walked at the front, talking and laughing. Qin Feiyang looked at the three of them and took a step forward, landing beside Feng Ling-er. He said in a low voice, "Thank you." Feng Ling-er said, "This is the last time I'll help you. From now on, we don't owe each other anything." Fatso came up and laughed. "Sister-in-law, are you going to divorce Jiang Laoda?" The two of them immediately glared at Fatso. Ling Yunfei said helplessly, "I said Fatso is dead. I won't say anything. Can ye keep quiet?" "Did Fat Lord say anything wrong?" Fatso looked innocent. Ling Yunfei said angrily, "Nonsense. Didn't you see them hugging each other in the pill hall? This means that their relationship is as deep as the sea. How can sister-in-law divorce him?" "That's true." Fatso nodded. Qin Feiyang was helpless. Even Ling Yunfei joined in the commotion. It seemed that it would be difficult to explain this matter clearly. Elder He suddenly turned his head and looked at Qin Feiyang. "I heard from Luo Xiong that you are very smart." Qin Feiyang was stunned. He waved his hand and said, "You flatter me. Hall Master is too kind." "Elder," he said, "let's not talk about these empty words. Let me ask you, why did Lin Han come to intercept you?" Fatso immediately raised his hand and roared, "Fat Lord knows. No, I know." Elder He frowned slightly and shifted his gaze to Fatso. He asked with interest, "Tell me about it." "Lin Han intercepted us for two reasons. First place, Lin Chen. Second, the Netherworld Devil Flame." Fatso tidied his hair and said seriously, "Not bad." Elder He was surprised and asked, "What's your name?" Fatso's face twitched. "Didn't Hall Master introduce me just now?" "Ahem." Elder He coughed and said awkwardly, "I didn't remember just now." "I think you're too lazy to remember." Fatso grumbled in dissatisfaction. He felt wronged and said, "Disciple is Situ Tianyu." Elder He nodded. Not bad. I will arrange a slightly easier chores for you." "Thank you for your care, Elder." Fatso quickly bowed and thanked him. He was so grateful that he shed tears. However, he was extremely disdainful. No matter how easy it was, wasn't it still a chores? Chores. Qin Feiyang was stunned and then came to a realization. Qin Wentian had almost forgotten that for the other two slots, they still had to work as odd job workers in the Pill Emperor Hall for a year before they could officially concoct pills. Qin Feiyang patted Ling Yunfei's shoulder and smiled. "Do you still dare to look down on him?" Ling Yunfei shook his head and smiled bitterly. Fatso's brain wasn't simple. The saying "great wisdom appears to be stupidity" was probably used to describe people like him. Yen City was divided into 4 districts: East District, South District, North District, and West District. The Royal Palace was located in the East District. The Danwang Hall was located in the South District. The Martial Imperial Hall was located in the North District. The Precious Treasure Pavilion was located in the West District. The 4 major forces each guarded 1 district. Therefore, Qin Feiyang parted ways with Feng Ling-er and Ling Yunfei not long after. One is in the South District, and the other is in the North District. They are more than 100 li apart. "Jiang Laoda, if you miss sister-in-law and want to date her in the future, you'll have to run," Fatso said with a sneaky smile. "Why do you talk so much nonsense?" Qin Feiyang glared at him fiercely. However, Fatso's words reminded him of something. The distance between the 2 halls was too far. With his current speed, it would take him half a day even if he didn't stop and rest. A round trip would take him an entire day. He couldn't afford to waste time. It seemed like besides copying the return formula, the most important thing right now was to earn some gold coins and buy a few image crystals. With the image crystals, it would be much more convenient to contact Ling Yunfei. However, the price of the image crystals gave him a headache. At this moment, Elder He asked, "Brother Luo, Zhuan attacked the Dan Hall. Other than Feng Cheng, did anyone else get hurt?" "No." Luo Xiong shook his head and said, Looking at the situation, he's still afraid of angering us. When he becomes a 9-star combat emperor, he won't be afraid of us. We'll be afraid of him. Elder He's face was filled with worry. You guys are too slow. I'll bring you guys to fly. He waved his hand, and his battle chi emerged, forming a 3-meter wide barrier that covered everyone. Next, the barrier carried them up into the sky like lightning in the night sky, and they quickly flew towards the Danwang Hall. In less than 100 breaths, a tall stone door entered their line of sight. The stone door was more than 10 meters tall. It was completely black and emitted an ancient aura. On top of it, the 3 big words Danwang Hall were written with iron hooks and silver strokes. The strokes were vigorous and imposing. Behind the stone door, there were groups of palaces. The lowest one was more than 10 meters tall, and the highest one was 50 to 60 meters tall. It was a magnificent sight to behold. Beside the stone door, there was a big hall that was more than 10 meters tall. It had white walls and black glazed roof tiles. It looked simple and unadorned, but it had a solemn aura. On the door, there were 3 big words. Reception Hall. Under the lead of Elder He, they entered the hall. A middle-aged man in white immediately came forward and cupped his hands. Greetings, Elder He. Elder He nodded. He moved closer to the middle-aged man's ear and whispered a few words. Then he left the reception hall with Luo Xiong. The middle-aged man looked at the 3 of them and smiled faintly. My name is Wang Yu. I'm the deacon elder of the Danwang Hall. You can call me Elder Wang or Old Wang. Greetings, Elder Wang. Qin Feiyang and the other 2 bowed. As for calling him Old Wang, it was just a formality. If they really called him that, he would definitely feel uncomfortable. Give me your Dan Hall's identity token. I'll exchange it for the Danwang Hall's identity token for you. Wang Yu led the 3 of them to a workstation at the side. After changing the identity token, Wang Yu said, Lu Hong, from today onwards, you will stay here as my assistant and receive guests who come to visit. During this period, without my permission, you are not allowed to refine pills in private. The limit is 1 year. Yes. Lu Hong bowed and replied. As an alchemist, there was nothing more painful than not being able to refine pills. However, no matter how unwilling she was, she could only hide it in her heart. Moreover, receiving guests was better than being sent to clean up the place. Wang Yu then looked at Fatso and said, Situ Tianyu, you are in charge of taking care of the herb field. Remember, you are not allowed to cheat, and you are not allowed to embezzle anything. If you are caught, you will be kicked out of the Danwang Hall, and will never be hired again. Take care of the herb field? Fatso was stunned. He was overjoyed. This was a lucrative job. He patted his chest and said confidently, Elder, don't worry. Fat Lord will definitely be loyal to his duty and protect every plant in the herb field. Fat Lord? Wang Yu frowned slightly and said, You should change this habit of yours as soon as possible. Otherwise, sooner or later, you will be in big trouble. Fatso scratched his head and said with an embarrassed smile, Fat Lord. No, I understand. I will definitely change. Qin Feiyang shook his head and laughed. Fatso's habit had long been ingrained in his bones. It would be difficult to change it. Wang Yu looked at Lu Hong and said, You stay here and watch. I will bring them over. Yes. Lu Hong nodded and looked at Qin Feiyang enviously. Although Wang Yu had not arranged for Qin Feiyang's whereabouts, she could imagine that he would definitely be well taken care of. Follow me. Wang Yu called out to Qin Feiyang and Situ Tianyu, then turned and walked out of the hall. Qin Feiyang turned his head and looked at Lu Hong. He smiled faintly and said, Actually, you being here is also an opportunity, because you can usually come into contact with many important people. Perhaps in the future, I will need to seek your help. Lu Hong was stunned. When Qin Feiyang said this, she really felt that this was a good job. Fatso smiled complacently. Smelly woman, if you need anything in the future, feel free to go to the medicine field to find Fat Lord. But don't come for physiological needs. Fat Lord can't take it. Originally, Lu Hong was quite touched. But when she heard the latter part, her face immediately darkened and she said angrily, Damn fat pig, I will skin you alive today. Fatso's complexion changed, and he hurriedly slipped away. Qin Feiyang shook his head and laughed. He also turned and walked out of the hall. After catching up to Fatso, he asked, "Damn Fatso, is Lu Hong really as bad as you said?" Fatso waved his hand. "Not really. She is just a bit snobbish." Qin Feiyang said, "So you are saying that she has an affair with Cheng Yu and Ji Jin?" Fatso laughed. "It's all made up by Fat Lord. Although it would occasionally be a bit ambiguous, it can still be considered as a clean body." Qin Feiyang's face twitched. To a woman, nothing is more important than her purity. In the future, you can't casually insult others like this. Fatso thought for a moment and nodded. "That's true. In the past, I was indeed a bit willful. I will find an opportunity to apologize to her." After bringing Fatso to the medicine field, Wang Yu led Qin Feiyang to the Danwang Hall's conference hall. Inside the hall there was no one. "You wait here. Don't run around." Leaving behind this sentence, Wang Yu turned and left. "What do you mean?" Qin Feiyang frowned. Shouldn't he be bringing him to the pill refining room and residence first? Why did he come to the conference hall first? Furthermore, he left him here alone. It felt somewhat strange. Suddenly, a glint flashed across his eyes. Could it be because of the Netherworld Devil Flame? You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.